Buenos dias. I will now call April 9th, 2024 San Diego County Board of Supervisors regular meeting and Fire Protection District meeting to order. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. These are our communities in San Diego region that face unjust conditions and circumstances related to the environments in which they live. The tribal nations of the San Diego region are an example of one community that historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from four cultural groups, the Kumeyaay, the Igueño, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Kawiay. We aspire to learn from the indigenous traditional knowledge and experience in undoing the injustices of the past. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. Supervisor Anderson. Supervisor Montgomery Stepp.
Here.
Supervisor Desmond.
Here.
Vice Chair Lawson Reamer. Chairwoman Vargas.
Vargas here. We will have Reverend Caleb Lyons deliver the invocation, and following the invocation, we're going to have Richard Deneur will deliver the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand for the invocation.
Good morning, Chair Vargas and supervisors and citizens. On behalf of University Christian Church in Hillcrest, it's an honor and a privilege to be with you all this morning. I invite everyone to take a moment to find that quiet place to be with the source of grounding for you, whatever that might be. We gather here this morning knowing that these are indeed sacred walls surrounding us, because the decisions made here within these walls impact the lives of so many. We're grateful to live in a place where we are given voice and the opportunity to have say in our governance. We give deep thanks for this Board of Supervisors, which takes their responsibility seriously as their decisions affect the lives of so many people in San Diego County. May we all feel the weight of responsibility that comes with the freedoms that we enjoy. We're living in a time where our divisions are often so amplified. May we all find ways to work together, standing on common ground, recognizing that each person has inherent worth and dignity, and that the greatest goal in our lives ought to be truly loving one another. May we always keep on our minds those who are in need and those who have been made to feel marginalized by society, ensuring that there really is liberty and justice for all people in our land. May we care enough about others to make personal sacrifices for the upbuilding of society and to ensure that there is enough for all. In the words of poet Mary Oliver, love yourself, then forget it, then love the world. May we recognize our own value, but never let that get in the way of caring for others. May we love this world enough to make it better with each moment that we are privileged to have, with each breath that we take, with each action that we make. May it be so. Amen.
Please remain standing and join me in the salute to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We're going to start with our proclamations and awards. And I want to invite Chastity Benson. Is she here already? Yes. There you are. Oh, I didn't see you. Come on in. Come on up. I want to make sure that, so today, the California, before we start our proclamations, I'm going to ask the team to come up here. San Diego. Before we start, the California State Association Counties, or CSAC as we know it, come on up here. You deserve all the glory. Is going to be presenting the 2023 Challenge Award to the County of San Diego's Free For Me program, and so I'm going to turn it over to Chastity.
Good morning. My name is Chastity Benson, and I am the Chief Operating Officer for the California State Association of Counties, affectionately known as CSAC. Thank you, Chair Vargas, for having CSAC here today to present the 2023 Challenge Award, honoring San Diego County's great work. I'd also like to personally thank you for being a great partner and friend. You represent the County of San Diego well on both CSAC's Executive Committee and Board of Directors. You all have a really great advocate for you in Sacramento, in Chair Vargas. Besides being a strong advocacy on behalf of counties for nearly 130 years, the CSAC team also supports each Board of Supervisors and the communities you serve with a slate of customized services and programs. I would go through all of the various things that we do on behalf of California counties, but I really want to get to why I'm here today, which is to celebrate the county for an innovative program called Free for Menstrual Equity Program, also known as Free for Me. Approximately 16.9 million people who menstruate live in poverty in the United States and may lack access to basic menstrual products and hygienic bathroom facilities for use during their menstrual cycle. This lack of affordable and accessible menstrual products, coupled with stigma and other factors, may play a role in perpetuating the cycle of what is known as period poverty. San Diego County has made strides in this issue locally, and that's why I'm here today. Out of nearly 400 entries received in our 2023 Challenge Award, San Diego County's Free For Me program was recognized as one of only 14 Challenge Awards winning entries, as determined by our diverse panel of judges. The County of San Diego initiated the Free For Me pilot program to address period poverty, which disproportionately affects low-income individuals, homeless populations, transgender individuals, and youth. This program installed over 50 free menstrual product dispensers in various public-facing county facilities, including libraries, community centers, public health centers, and family resource centers. I need y'all to take a moment and let that sink in. That is just phenomenal work answering the call to communities, and you all should be really proud of the team that you have here in San Diego. The program has expanded to all county facilities and has become a model for other jurisdictions to replicate. The program has provided over 277,000 menstrual products in its first 2 years, demonstrating its significant impact on addressing period poverty. San Diego County is the first in California and the nation to address period poverty in this comprehensive manner, setting a precedent for other regions. These achievements achievements impressed the 2023 CSAC Challenge Award judges, and it's my great honor to present the 2023 Challenge Award to San Diego County for the Free For Me program, which complements the county's strategic initiatives of equity, workforce, empowerment, and community quality of life. Congratulations.
All right. Thank you, Chastity. Thank you for being here. I know there's a lot going on in Sacramento, so appreciate you. So before I turn it over to our team, I just want to say thank you so much for the recognition of our team, because so that you all know, this idea came about before even I became a supervisor. It was Aunt Flor, San Diego Youth Whale, Planned Parenthood, and IDSF, the coalition, had been talking about it and really trying to figure out how we do this. And so to be able to introduce it and to have this amazing team implemented is exactly what public policy is all about. The Free For Me program's goal is to really provide, as it was mentioned, menstrual equity in San Diego County by making sure that menstrual products are in public-facing county buildings, and that we're able to make sure that the nearly two-thirds of low-income folks who are impacted by this are able to receive the menstrual programs that they need. And so we saw this through the pandemic, that it was really, really tough for individuals to be able to just access basic needs. And so I am really, really thrilled about the county, our county team, our community partners for putting this together. And as Chastity mentioned too, the idea that it's now in 24 public-facing county facilities, including libraries, community centers, public health centers, and family resource centers, I think says a lot about who we are as a county and what we're trying to accomplish. So I think it was mentioned, but I want to just emphasize, we've been able to install 1,168 dispensers in 307 county facilities, and 1,000 already installed are as of today. And so I want to thank everyone, HHSS, for the strategy and innovation. I want to thank Shelley and our Department of General Services led by Nicole, and I also want to thank Tara, Tiffany, Patrick, and Jimmy of our county team for being up here with me today to accept this award as their work and expertise in the reason for this program being successful and inspirational. And so with that, because of their success, we've already served as a model of other jurisdictions, and I hope other jurisdictions throughout the state and the nation also follow along. So with that, thank you very much. And all right, thank you. We're going to go take a picture. You can pass it around, the award. It's like a big, anyway. Well, thank you again. Let's give him another big round of applause. The first proclamation is going to be presented by myself and Supervisor Montgomery Stepp, honoring our amazing African American Association of County Employees, and accepting the proclamation will be Kalia Kincaid.
Come on up, come on up, come on up, everybody. Well, thank you so much, Chairwoman Vargas, for partnering in recognizing ACE and their many years of commitment to our county. Congratulations to the African American Association of County Employees on all of your years of success. I had the pleasure of meeting with you in my first few weeks of serving at the county, and I'm proud that folks who choose to work at the county have an organization they identify with and can advance inclusive workplaces. Historically, California holds a legacy of placing systemic barriers against African Americans in the workplace. While many of the overt barriers were deemed unconstitutional, Black people still face a range of instances of discrimination and microaggressions and injustices that may go unreported or ignored. We honor ACE as an organization focused on the African American community to send a clear message that we are committed to dismantling these barriers and creating a more equitable workplace for all. Over the years, the presence of ACE has served as a powerful catalyst for positive change within our region. Through advocacy, education, and outreach initiatives, the association has helped raise awareness about issues affecting the African American workforce and community as a whole, advocated for policy changes to address systemic inequities, and provided valuable support to employees facing challenges in the workplace. Most importantly, this organization is a beacon of hope and empowerment for African American employees within our county. It provides a safe and supportive space where they can find mentorship, professional development opportunities, and a sense of belonging, essential ingredients for personal and professional success, and the only pathway to help our county truly thrive. Our structures and systems have a long way to go to realize the true potential of equitable workspaces. I can attest to that since I've been here with emails that I have received about stories things that are still going on within our county with our African American community. But the work that ACE has provided is a meaningful step toward building a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive workplace for generations to come. Thank you for your vision and commitment to changing the realities of the African American workforce in our region. And I will now turn it over to our chairwoman.
So thank you, Supervisor. And as you mentioned, I am really excited to be your partner in this process and highlighting ACE and its unwavering commitment to our communities, particularly for their professional development and Black excellence, and really elevating the work that our communities are doing, that you're doing in the community. I think that ACE, led by the 8-member board of directors, is a great board of directors, including the amazing Kalia Kincaid, who serves as the president, has worked with the county for over 3.5 years in the HHSA department. Each one of these folks every day come in here and do their best to ensure that our communities have what they need, and they're really identifying how the African-American workforce has been always essential to the county of San Diego and is critical to its success and its programs and progress. I believe that the organizational health and wellness of our county is reflective of our employees, and so I value the mission of ACE, the contribution that all of you make every day. And so on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I'm honored to recognize you. And so we'll do it together, Supervisor? Yeah. You want to declare the day? Okay. Because I get to do a lot of them.
Okay,
I get to do a couple of things.
Right. Yeah, I'm just getting started.
I know. You're doing a great job.
Be it proclaimed by myself and my colleagues on this 9th day of April 2024 that we commend the African American Association of County Employees, or ACE, for their outstanding service, leadership, and commitment to the citizens of San Diego County, and do hereby declare this day to be African American Association of County Employees Day throughout San Diego County. Congratulations.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kalia Kincaid, and I'm the president of ACE. ACE stands for the African American Association of County Employees. ACE has 8 board members: Tahiti Tinsley, vice president; Cynthia Williams, treasurer; Nikki Horton, secretary; Kennedy Payne, vice chair of student outreach; Ronald Mason, vice chair of professional development; Margaret Vonner Smith, vice chair of membership; Brianna Hamilton, social media director. I stand before you today with immense pride and gratitude as we gather to celebrate a remarkable milestone, the 10th anniversary of ACE. This momentous occasion is not just a testament to time, it's a testament to resilience, unity, and progress. 10 years ago, a group of passionate individuals came together with a vision to create a supportive community within the County of San Diego. They recognized the importance of amplifying Black voices, advocating for equity, and fostering a culture of inclusivity, and thus ACE was born. Since its inception, ACE has been a beacon of strength and empowerment. It has provided a platform for meaningful dialogue, mentorship opportunities, professional development, and cultural celebrations. But beyond these tangible achievements, it has served as a source of inspiration for change, both within the County of San Diego and beyond its walls. As we reflect on the journey of the past decade, we cannot ignore the challenges we've faced. We've encountered obstacles, setbacks, both internal and external. We've witnessed moments of injustice and adversity that have tested our resolve. But through it all, we've remained steadfast in our commitment to effecting positive change. Today, as we commemorate this milestone, we also reaffirm our dedication to the principles upon which ACE was founded. We recommit ourselves to the pursuit of equity, diversity, and inclusion in all aspects of our work and our lives. We recognize that our journey is far from over, and there is still much work to be done. But with unity and determination, there is no obstacle too great to overcome. I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to each and every member of ACE. Your passion and perseverance and your unwavering commitment have been a driving force of our success. You have inspired us, challenged us, and enriched our organization in ways too numerous to count. I also want to extend my thanks to our allies and supporters who have stood by us every step of the way. Your solidarity and allyship have been invaluable, and we are grateful for your continued partnership as we strive for a more equitable future. As we look ahead to the next 10 years and beyond, let us do so with hope, determination, and a renewed sense of purpose. Let us continue to stand together, shoulder to shoulder, as we work towards a world where every individual is valued, respected, and empowered to reach their full potential. Congratulations to all ACE members on this incredible milestone, and I thank you for your tireless dedication to making our organization and our world a better place for all. Here's to the next 10 years of progress and unity and success. Thank you.
¿Salió bien o no? Yeah? Okay. All right. Thank you, and thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you.
All right, the next proclamation will be presented by myself and Vice Chair Lawson Weimer, honoring Child Abuse Prevention Month, and accepting the proclamation will be Kim Gardina and DA Summer Steffen.
Good morning. It is with a heavy yet hopeful heart that I stand before you today to address the importance of April as Child Abuse Awareness Month. Child Abuse Awareness Month is not merely a designated time frame on the calendar. It is a critical opportunity for us to come together as a community and shine a spotlight on an issue that too often lurks in the shadows. This month is about education and empowerment. It's about equipping ourselves with the knowledge and awareness to recognize the signs of abuse, to speak up when we suspect a child may be in danger, and to take action to prevent future harm. It's about providing trauma-informed support and resources to survivors, helping them heal from their trauma and reclaim their sense of safety. Child Abuse Awareness Month is also about sparking meaningful change. It's about advocating for policies and practices that prioritize the safety and well-being of children. In 2023, here at the San Diego County Board of Supervisors, we created the Child and Family Wellbeing Department, CFWB, by integrating the First 5 Commission of San Diego, Child Welfare Services, Child Care Services, and other critical resources to partner with children, youth, and families. The number of children experiencing abuse and neglect annually has decreased by 51%, and the number of children entering foster care has decreased by 53% over the past 10 years, demonstrating positive outcomes of regional child abuse prevention efforts. Community and stakeholder feedback have been absolutely instrumental in shaping the development of the CFWB department, and we're thrilled to see that collaboration continue to flourish. I encourage everyone to be part of that collaboration and play a part in shaping the ongoing evolution of the CFWB department by visiting the website and diving into the wealth of information available. Share this valuable information with your families, friends, and colleagues, because together we can amplify our impact and reach even more individuals. With that, I want to thank our county staff and community partners for your tireless efforts to support the safety of our children, and now turn over the floor to Chairwoman Vargas.
Thank you. And so, thank you again, and as the Vice Chair has mentioned, during April, we are reminded that National Child Abuse Prevention Month is a time to raise awareness and take action to prevent the maltreatment of our most vulnerable population, our children. Child abuse and neglect are not merely statistics or headlines. They are harrowing realities that leave lasting scars on the minds, hearts, and bodies of innocent children. In our 2022-2023 fiscal year, San Diego County investigating a staggering 39,295 reports of child abuse and neglect, encompassing a heartbreaking 68,535 children. These numbers are not just figures on a page. They represent the shattered innocence of countless young souls, each deserving of love, protection, and security. We worked really hard, right, on creating the new Child and Family Wellbeing Department, and I cannot tell you how grateful I am to our county team, all of the members of the community for years put together what this needed to look like, and so that we could fundamentally shift how we support our children, youth, families, and communities in need. The strides we have made are commendable. The Child and Family Wellbeing Department has increased their collaboration with various community partners, such as Promises to Kids, the District Attorney's Office. Thank you, Senator Stephan, for doing everything that you do on behalf of our youth and for being our partner in this process. YMCA Partners in Prevention, Brady's Children's Hospital, Chadwick Center, and the San Diego County Office of Education, just to name a few. As we embark on this journey, let us reaffirm our commitment to increase hope for families across San Diego County. Let us embrace trauma-informed prevention and protection services, ensuring that every child and every family and every community receives the support that they need and deserve. With that, it is my honor, be it proclaimed by myself and my colleagues, we do hereby declare the month of April 2024 to be Child Abuse Prevention Month in San Diego County, and urge all citizens to join the county in ensuring the safety and well-being for all of our children. So with that, I'm going to invite District Attorney Summer Stephan, and then our County of San Diego Director of Child and Family Wellbeing, King Jardina, to say a couple of words.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Vargas. Thank you, Vice Chair Tara Lawson-Reamer, Supervisor, CAO, and Community County team. I think Nelson Mandela, the great peacemaker, said it best: there is no better discernment of a civilization's soul than the way it treats its children. If we begin there, then we can talk more about our children than about nature events like eclipses, which are beautiful. What we are really calling to action today is to have a real eclipse for the harm and abuse that is coming to our children. Every single day, my team at the district attorney's office sees the worst things that people can commit on a child, from physical abuse, starvation, sexual abuse, selling children like a slice of pizza on the street. And all of that is something that we hold them accountable for. The pain and suffering that we see is so severe that our own team of grown adults feels the secondhand trauma, and we often have to rotate them out of those assignments because of all the horrible things that they see. But the win and the thing that inspires us is in what we see in the aftermath when the system comes together to care for the children, to build their resilience, to come there instead of sometimes their own families. As sadly, one very terrible data point is that 68% of children are abused sexually or physically by their own families. So we, as a community, then surround them as a family to rebuild their confidence, to rebuild their lives. This is something that we do across our office with the county's help, with the great team here, with family justice centers where they're surrounded by care and trauma care. We have to continue this fight, and a call to action is for every mandated reporter, teacher, counselor, faith leaders, and then also just community at large. If you see signs that a child is being abused, speak up. You can never be in trouble for speaking up in good faith, even if it turns out to be not a case of abuse. It could also be life-saving to be able to intervene. Follow your instincts so we can continue to save our children. I want to thank the leaders here for recognizing this important day. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Kimberly Jaredina, the Director for the Child and Family Wellbeing Department. And let me start first by thanking the Chairwoman and the Vice Chair for this proclamation, but really our entire Board of Supervisors. As you heard mentioned, their commitment to child abuse prevention has grown tremendously over the years. And last year, they created our new department to really bring together an array of child and family serving systems so that we can provide a more holistic approach to meeting families' needs. We know that families thrive in connected communities, and that's really what Child Abuse Prevention Month is all about. It's about all of us taking an interest in our neighborhoods and our communities with all of our partners, our friends and our family, and making sure that the kids that we know, that we see, that are running around in your streets every single day, that they have what they need, that their families have what they need to be able to support a healthy development for those children and keep them safe. And so we're really honored today that we have many of our community partners celebrating with us. We absolutely do not do this work alone, and I want to thank all of them for their endless partnership and collaboration in these efforts. I also want to just give a few minutes. I'd love for Stephanie Joya, she's here representing Rady Children's Hospital Chadwick Center today, to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, and the Board of Supervisors. My name is Stephanie Joya, and I'm here today representing the Chadwick Center at Rady Children's Hospital. Thank you for this proclamation and recognizing Child Abuse Prevention Month. The Chadwick Center serves as San Diego's largest advocacy center, supporting the multidisciplinary response to child abuse. Each year, we serve approximately 2,000 children and families impacted by child abuse and neglect. All of us have an opportunity to make a difference. We know that all children have the capacity to be great and do great things. We have a shared duty to help them heal and support them in achieving their full potential. We also know that children who receive early intervention to address abuse are more likely to recover, so that event is not the defining event in their life, but one of many life events. Child abuse is serious, but addressing it can be done by everyday activities that promote connection and relationships with each other. Chadwick Center is proud to stand with this group of amazing community providers and advocates to be honored for our work building resilience and perseverance of children and families. Thank you.
All right. The next proclamation will be given by Vice Chair Lawson Remer, honoring National Wildlife Week, and accepting proclamation will be Brian Albright.
Thank you. As an avid hiker and former National Outdoor Leadership instructor, I am thrilled to celebrate National Wildlife Week right here in San Diego County alongside our County Department of Parks and Recreation, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and Nature Collective. In San Diego County, every corner of our diverse landscape offers thrilling opportunities to encounter an array of captivating wildlife. Let's start with our coastal areas, where you might spot the leopard sharks who gather in the shallow sandy bottom areas off La Jolla's coastline, alongside snorkelers and divers who flock, eager to swim alongside these harmless sharks, observing them in their natural habitat. Venture to our mountainous regions that truly steal the show when it comes to wildlife encounters. Here, amid our towering pines and winding trails, you might glimpse the graceful silhouette of a mountain lion, or hear the rustle of leaves as a family of black bears forages for food. And let's not forget about the dazzling array of bird life that calls our mountains home. From the vibrant flashes of hummingbirds to the majestic soar of golden eagles, National Wildlife Week is not just about admiring from a distance. It's about actively engaging, preserving, and protecting the natural wonders that make San Diego County so special. It's about recognizing the vital role each and every one of us plays in the conservation of our wildlife in our own backyard. So here in San Diego County, we're so fortunate to have a vast array of partners that include the National Wildlife Foundation, federal, state, and local agencies, and wildlife advocates who work collaboratively for over 2 decades to implement the Multiple Species Conservation Program. The MSCP is a long-term regional habitat conservation program focused on balancing the protection of plant and animal species with recreation, development, and agricultural activities in the San Diego region. So let's get out there, San Diego County, grab your binoculars, lace up your hiking boots, grab your snorkel and swimsuits, and prepare to be amazed by the wonders of the natural world right here in our own backyard. So it is with great pleasure I present this proclamation. Be it proclaimed by Chairwoman Nora Vargas and all the members of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors on this 9th day of April 2024. We recognize the importance of environmental conservation and education, and hereby declare the week of April 3 through 9, 2024, to be National Wildlife Week throughout San Diego County. Thank you. Susan, would you like to say anything?
Well, thank you, Vice Chair and members of the board. There are more than 200 rare, threatened, and endangered plant and animal species in our county, and that is more than any other county in the nation. So it is definitely appropriate to recognize and to celebrate National Wildlife Week. And I want to take a moment to recognize the team that helps take care of our amazing wildlife here in the county. We have a fantastic science and research team here in the county, represented by our wildlife biologist, Beth Principe, and our environmental services chief, Crystal Benham. And they do a fantastic job, as well as our field team represented by Ranger Carmen Rubio, who bring these experiences to people when they visit the preserve. We can't do wildlife conservation regionally without really good government partnerships, and so I'm pleased to recognize those, and in particular Scott Sobiek, who is the Regional Director for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I want to congratulate the service on a recent $60 million acquisition of several thousand acres that was a partnership with Customs and Border Protection, many other agencies, including the county. And we are in the process of developing a resource management plan and public access plan together for that area, which is twice the size of the city of San Francisco, for context. And then, of course, our nonprofit partners, and I want to recognize Doug Gibson, the Executive Director of the Nature Collective, who help us manage a number of lands in the county, including San Alejo Lagoon, and soon to be the county-owned Lilac Ranch, our newest acquisition of a couple thousand acres in Valley Center. And so with that, you know, proclamations for wildlife are amazing, right? We love it. Our website has all kinds of information at sdparks.org where you can actually learn and see videos of our local wildlife. But there is absolutely no substitute for getting out there and experiencing it yourself. So take some time in April to experience the county's preserve system. It's the best month of the year. And thanks to our board for this proclamation.
Thank you.
The next proclamation will be given by Supervisor Anderson, honoring Richard Deneur. Accepting the proclamation will be Richard.
Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be here today to recognize the extraordinary service of Richard Deneur. Richard is our longest-serving board member in the history of San Diego County on the Property Tax Assessment Appeals Board, having been appointed and reappointed 9 times and having served more than 30 years. Dick's long tenure, it was great. He's used his experience as a real estate broker and all the knowledge and experience he's gotten over the years to ensure that taxpayers get a fair shake when you appeal the verdict of the assessor. You go before the board and you can appeal your case. Richard has listened to many, many cases. He's balanced educating people while making sure that they got a fair decision and were treated correctly and right. And I just want to thank Dick for all his years of service and what he's done. He's not only, you know, we constantly appoint people to this board, and when you're new, you're not quite sure what to expect. So having somebody like Dick there to help mentor his colleagues and at the same time provide the service has been a real joy to our county and a blessing. So let me just say, I'm very honored today to recognize Dick, but be it proclaimed by Chairwoman Vargas and all the members of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors on this 9th day of April 2024 that they commend Richard Deneur for his outstanding service, leadership, and commitment to the residents. And we here do declare this day as Richard Deneur Day throughout San Diego County.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So happy you're here. Richard, would you like to say a word? Yeah. Thank you, Supervisor Anderson. And I would like to start to say by that I doubt there are very many people here who would disagree with the idea that some people don't like to pay their taxes. It's just the way it is. But one of the things that our board does, as Supervisor Anderson just indicated, is to adjudicate and equalize the taxes in fairness and honesty, we hope. And I think that that's worked pretty well. I want to thank the county, especially the supervisors who appointed me years ago. Diane Jacobs was my original supervisor, and since then, Supervisor Anderson has taken over. And I want to also let you know that there are 3 other boards besides Board 1, and I'm pleased to say that our Board 1 people are here today. That's pretty honest and pretty neat. I'm honored to have led the Pledge of Allegiance today as well. And the reason for that is that it includes the words, for me, under God. You see, I'm a Christian, and I know that that's not one of the things that either Supervisor Jacobs or Supervisor Anderson would have known when I was appointed, but nevertheless, it's not a qualification for serving on the Assessment Appeals Board either. Yet we start every meeting with the very same pledge that we pledged this morning, and I pray that that will never change. There are many who serve the County of San Diego whose work is exemplary, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention them. Among them are the assessors who work diligently to establish the value of properties according to the Board of Equalization rules and also the principles of taxation and rule and value. We're also guided by the County Counsel's Office very ably, and this is representing both the assessor and the applicants, which is really a good thing. And finally, and I would be really remiss if I didn't mention the efforts put forth by the little-known but extremely important County Clerk's Office, which really do a great job in everything that they do. When I started 31 years ago, the stipend I received for serving on the Assessment Appeals Board was $100 a day. That's kind of expensive when you think that, well, as a real estate broker, I would have earned quite a bit more that day. But anyway, the last check that I received, I'm pleased to announce, was also $100. So I want you to know that it's not for the money that we serve. We serve on the Assessment Appeals Board out of joy. And by the way, our County Supervisors, that might be something you want to look about in the future. Anyway, it's been a great privilege to have served. And I'm not being honored because I'm 83 years old. I'm being honored because I served on the board, and I'm happy to have done it. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations. The next proclamation, a final proclamation, will be given by Supervisor Desmond honoring Alta Vista Botanical Gardens, and accepting the proclamation will be Nancy Farmer Jones.
Oh, hello. Good morning. Good morning. This is Farmer Jones. The Farmer Jones? Yes, thanks for being here today.
Well, good morning, everyone, and it's my honor today to recognize the Alta Vista Botanical Gardens all-volunteer committee members. We have 2 here today. Nancy Jones, she's the director of the children's programs, and she's also known as Farmer Jones. And we have Rusty Dixon, she is the garden manager. So thank you both for being with us here today. So Earth Day was established in 1970, and it's going to be celebrated on April 22nd this year, with festivities happening throughout the month of April. Communities will be facilitating events to bring awareness, to educate people on environmental conservation, sustainability, and a healthier planet. The Alta Vista Botanical Gardens was created in 1999 to bring together people, nature, and art for visitors and guests from around the world. The gardens have been maintained by devoted volunteers, all volunteers, in an amazing 14-acre haven of peace, natural beauty, and educational programs, and exhibits, and they have over 900 family members, or member families, as part of the program. The all-volunteer board manages businesses from running the gardens, including 30 adopt-a-gardeners, and reliable volunteers to keep the gardens growing. The Alta Vista Botanical Gardens in Vista celebrates their 15th Earth Day celebration and festival on April 20th with fun events, free for families and the entire community. So we want to thank you from our entire and your entire board for your time and commitment and community service and the generous support of providing this in the city of Vista. It's a wonderful spot for a place for people to visit. So therefore, be it proclaimed by myself and all the members of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors that on this 9th day of April 2024, that we recognize April as Earth Month and commend Alta Vista Botanical Gardens for 25 years of outstanding environmental stewardship and community service to the citizens of San Diego, and to hereby declare April to be Alta Vista Botanical Gardens Month throughout San Diego County. So congratulations. All right. So we have a proclamation for you. Well, would you like to say a few words first? Here, Rusty, hold that. There you go.
They say don't give Nancy the mic. Okay. First of all, congratulations to Summer Stephen, and thank you for working so hard with the child abuse. I work with Women's Club also, and we did donate at One Safe Place up in San Marcos, some teddy bears. So Women's Club supports that. Wildlife, oh my gosh, that other proclamation. I'm out there hiking as much as I can and listening to the birds. And of course, we also get to do that at the gardens. So you probably don't know about Alta Vista Botanical Gardens.
You're going to tell them?
It's a lovely, I think so. It's a lovely place. It's a lovely place. So greetings, thank you to the County Board of Supervisors and especially Supervisor Desmond. Thank you for honoring Alta Vista Botanical Gardens with this proclamation for April, Earth Month. I represent our board and our dedicated hours and hours, dedicated volunteers. Today with me is Rusty Dixon, who is our garden manager, but she's also a super volunteer when she's not keeping things organized in the garden office. She works really hard. And I am Nancy B. Jones. Yes, they call me Farmer Jones. I did not bring my hat, but I love to do that. Alta Vista Botanical Gardens started in 1999, and there were big plans for a crystal palace with indoor canopy. That's not Vista. The plans were a little too grandiose for the city of Vista property, so we researched local botanical gardens, including Quail, which is now San Diego Botanic, and we even went up to Huntington, and we developed themes for our areas. So we've been working ever since to make this garden a place of respite, refuge, and relief from daily cares. We have been called Vista's hidden gem. Farmer Jones started the Fall Fun Festival and the monthly Kids in the Garden class at the Gardens in 2009. I was a retired teacher. What do I get to do? Continue to teach. So in 15 years, we have had 11,000 people attend and volunteer at our Earth Day coming up in April and Fall Fun festivals. And I have worked with another 8,000 kids at monthly Kids in the Garden classes, not all at once. 8,000 total, because I do keep records. And I also love to do school field trips, and these kids learn about nature and the environment and gain respect for the outdoors. It's a beautiful place to do it. So April 20th will be our free Earth Day Festival, free. And we had, last year, 1,000 people came through. They just love it, and they love to have it free. Otherwise, it's only $5 or $3 for kids, so it's not expensive at all. We also have adult events. Meeting at the garden. We had meeting, M-E-A-D, meeting at the garden. A mead is that Viking drink made with honey and it's fermented. We had, Rusty figures, over 1,200 visitors. Happy visitors last Saturday. It turned out really well. And then we have also our November Fest, which is a fundraiser that we work with the Amigos de Vista Lions. So we have to raise money. We are on city property, but the city does not pay our water bill. You can imagine, water bill for 14 acres. Yes, so we have grown our membership. As Supervisor Desmond said, we are at 900 member families. So, Miss Rusty, can you finish this up for us?
We are anticipating and planning for our 25th anniversary gala dinner on September 7th at the Gardens. You're welcome to join us. If you would like to learn more information, please visit our website, altavistabotanicalgardens.org. We have a lot to celebrate with 900 member families supporting us and loving our gardens. We sincerely thank you again for honoring Alta Vista Botanical Gardens in Vista and literally putting us on the map. Thank you.
All right, great. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Here we go.
Congratulations. We will now proceed with non-agenda public communications as an opportunity for the public to address the board on subject matters within the board's jurisdiction. But not an item on today's agenda. The only action that the board may take is referral to the Chief Administrative Officer. Reminder, according to Rule 4A, members of the public that are non-English speaking and need interpretation assistance will get twice the allotted time for their comments, which is 4 minutes. So reminder, according to the board rules and procedures, audience members shall not whistle, clap, stomp feet, or anything that disrupts the proceedings. To better facilitate the meeting, we will have 5 speakers in person, 5 speakers via phone, and the rest of non-agenda public communication will be heard at the close of today's meeting. Clerk, can you please call the speakers?
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 28 requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 12 in person and 16 requesting to speak by phone. For those that requested to speak by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. Again, as the Chairwoman indicated, we'll be calling the first 5 speakers, while the remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. I'd like to invite forward Lisa Garcia, Crystal Irving, David Covarrubias, Cesar Javier, and Parita Javier. If I've called your name, please come forward. And I'll ask you to please state your name for the audio record.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Lisa Garcia. I'm a proud SEIU Local 221 member who has worked for the county for 20 years. I work in the Child and Well-Being Department. Our work is more challenging than ever. Our region faces systematic issues that only the public sector can address. Issues including getting the unsheltered off the street, mental health challenges, child abuse, and care for justice-involved individuals. To do this work, we need to have competitive pay and benefits, which the equity study should help measure. We are grateful for the county's commitment to engage with us, but the only way for the equity study to capture the reality is by using the cost of living to capture the reality of all county workers. This is why more than 1,600 of my fellow county employees joined me in adding our names to the petition that I would like to hand to the clerk. The reason why, it's plain. According to the U.S. News and World Report, San Diego is the most expensive place to live in the U.S., yet our wages aren't keeping up. I am a college graduate. I am a productive member of this community. Every day, I help our communities and our families to be safe, which benefits every single one of us. During the 20 years, I gave up a lot of time with my own daughter to continue to work with the county and keeping families safe. And 4 years ago, my daughter was murdered, and I will never get that time back, but at least give me the dignity to be able to bury my daughter without the credit card debt. This is not just my unique story. It's many of our county employees who are sleeping in cars and can't afford the basic necessities, to include groceries and gas. Give us a livable wage so that we can afford the cost of food.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Chairwoman Vargas and Supervisors. My name is Crystal Irving, and I'm proud to serve as president of SEIU Local 221. As we gear up for our next county contract negotiations, we are requesting that you take some important considerations for the upcoming compensation equity study for county workers. When we came into the previous negotiations, we knew that we would not make up for generations of neglect from previous boards of supervisors, and we also knew that we would do everything we could to try. While we appreciate the shift in the board's priority towards equity pay, it's clear that the next equity study should do a better job aligning with real-world economic challenges. In this equity study, it is critical that we use the cost of living differential as opposed to the cost of labor differential used in the last study. We have sought guidance from the UC Berkeley Labor Center and would like to submit to you, in addition to the 1,600 signatures submitted by member leader Lisa Garcia, a letter from UC Berkeley's Labor Center that outlines how using the cost of living as a tool is more in line with best practices for compensation studies. This change in methodology will help to attract and retain skilled workers by ensuring that the wages for county workers are living wages in this region. We know that San Diego is now the most expensive place to live, and despite our foundational and historic contract, wages still haven't kept up. Our workers are on the front line of addressing our region's issues and care deeply about the challenges we face. And if we are to address the difficulties in our region, we need talented and motivated workforce here at the county. So now is the time for fair and equitable pay to ensure quality public services. So let's keep building a better region together, invest in our workforce and San Diego families to ensure that quality services can continue to be provided far into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is David Covarrubias. I'm a 21-year resident of Spring Valley, District 1, and I'm here today to speak out against the homeless facility that was approved to be built on Hamishaw Road, State Route 125. This past Saturday, I canvassed the neighborhood closest to that area, north of Hamishaw Road and the north side of east of Elk Kelton Boulevard. I managed to get 33 signatures in 2 hours of walking the neighborhood. They're all against it. The homeless people that live there now, they keep running them out. They don't want help. They don't want to get clean. All they want to do is their drugs and their alcohol, defecate on the sidewalk, urinate on the sidewalk, and leave their dirty needles on the sidewalks. I'm tired. We are all tired of this. And Chairwoman Vargas, I've been calling your office every day for 3 weeks, and you have never returned my calls. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Next speaker, please. You can come to the podium.
Greetings, my wife who is handicapped.
APCD responded having jurisdiction as referred to by City Code Enforcement Division to our report beginning June 13, 2021 of toxicity or gas poisoning in our community designated as residential zone neighborhood has no violation citing County Municipal Code Rule 11 exempting ceramics kiln with fuel gas or electric from permit. We victims in attendance, Director Paula Forbes of APCD declared in January's 2024 Air Commission Board meeting that the case of toxicity as a nuisance in undergoing investigation. Since then, we have been attending the meeting of only to stop poisoning the air we breathe. The home business, ceramics and kiln operation in our neighborhood is in violation of the following laws, codes, rules, ordinance, California land use and planning laws, and the use of land or variance, which provides that business or projects must be in accord with health, safety, and public welfare. California environment and land use laws on nuisance. City home occupation ruling of July 2020 in nuisance. Social injustice.
Thank you. And can you please state your name for the record?
We are privileged to be student learners, teachers in this great hall, University of Life, located in the heart of County of San Diego. For 4 decades, we tell the story of toxicity in 2 minutes. It's victims of gas poisoning in a neighborhood designated as residential zone area. District 4, County of San Diego, ma'am. We voted for you in a hope that there will be a light to resolve this issue for 4 decades. Did I pronounce it well?
Yes.
We appeal, we plead for a policy change. You've heard the violations. The ordinance or ordinances are crafted at loose, spelled out LUEG, at the District Air Pollution Reduction Department. Not control, if I may name it. They are confused like us. They know how to do it. The children knows the solution. Reduce, not control. Stop, not control. The permit is a money making. It's a revenue, yes. But what is the consequence? Seniors, children, parents, people, residents, particularly Asian Americans, who sacrifice, hardworking, taxpayers. And this is what we get. The owners are killing us softly, subtly. Asthma, COPD, lung cancer. Wow. And the ruling still exists. They just revised it, removing the word wood fuel. Where is sanity here? Where is rationality? Where is reason?
Thank you. Your time is up.
We are proud American. Thank you. Let's do it in action. Thank you.
Supervisor Montgomery Stepp, as your representative on the APCD, this item has been reviewed numerous times, so I'm happy to have my team follow up with you as well as the APCD folks. Okay? Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. Javier, I have staff coming to get your information.
We'll note for the record, those speakers were Parita Javier and Cesar Javier. Thank you. We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. Again, we'll be hearing from the first 5 callers. The remaining callers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. While I remind the callers, they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll start with our first caller.
Good morning. My name is Terry Ann Skelly. Good morning, Board of Supervisors, Chair Vargas. As a parent and public health educator, today I'd like to urge a cautious approach regarding the retail sale of marijuana in our county. The recent debacle in New York's marijuana permitting process serves as a stark warning of the inherent pitfalls we face when we enable the proliferation of pot shops. As reported in a recent New York Post article, the marijuana permitting process of New York has resulted in a chaotic situation rife with corruption and collusion and illegal financial maneuverings. Innumerable, some news sources say hundreds, of illegal pot shops have taken advantage of the irregular process, and New York staffing charged with oversight and overwhelmed the financial and personal resources for enforcement, resulting in tragic outcomes such as fatal shootings of individuals engaged in illicit marijuana activities and conflicts with police. In light of these challenges, I suggest in San Diego County that we focus our funds and personnel to improve the public health of our citizens instead of increasing the number of pot shops. Instead of burdening law enforcement, we should direct resources towards educating the public about the dangers of marijuana use, especially among our youth. Medical evidence increasingly supports concerns about the adverse effects of marijuana, including the risk of addiction, psychosis, and long-lasting mental disorders. We must prioritize the well-being of our community instead of normalizing drug use in our community. Thank you for hearing my concerns this morning.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Thank you. This is Peggy Walker, Youth Advocate. Supervisors, you have 3 items today referring to mental and behavioral health. I strongly urge you, as you consider solutions, please do not overlook drug prevention, nor the fact that high-potency THC in marijuana products is a major contributing factor to today's mental health and behavioral health issues. Psychology Today magazine just published an article that points to steep rises in marijuana addiction, psychosis, and schizophrenia, especially among young males. The author said we've entered a whole new world of harmful psychological effects from cannabis use, noting that 30% of schizophrenia diagnosis among males 21 to 30 resulted directly from cannabis dependency. Psychology Today also reported pot addiction occurs in 1/5 to 1/4 of both recreational and medical users, and addiction jumps to 33% for young people using weekly or more often, and is high among those using for depression and chronic pain. National Geographic reports psychosis risk is higher from cannabis use than cocaine. We've only to look to Oregon, where, encouraged by deep-pocketed interest groups, drug use was decriminalized and incentives for treatment were removed. 3 years later, Oregon is the worst state for addiction, drug overdose, youth drug use, and homeless rates, and has just repealed that drug decriminalization. We must here address the negative impact widespread addictive drug sales has unleashed on mental and behavioral health in our community. Thank you for your time.
We'll hear from the next caller.
Hey, it's Jim. I'm confused. Maybe you can help me. Parts of the county being flooded, decimated certain neighborhoods, and ruining so many lives. What do our county leaders do in response? Do they take responsibility in a position of transparency and then maybe resign in dignity? Do they own the fact that they actually failed their constituents by providing inept oversight of a drainage system left in disarray? Do they step down, saving face with some grace, knowing that they have failed miserably one of the main duties they have, to protect the people with a competent public work? No, that would be the honorable path. That would be the action of a hero if we had any heroes here. I am confused. How can it be that those who presided over such failure not only maintain their position of leadership, but also are the ones to promote answers and solutions for the future? Why would we believe them? They can't even take responsibility for their failures. Why are those who oversaw a broken trust be trusted and empowered to fix what's broken? There is now talk about the storm response and recovery. There is only one response: owning up to your mistakes and oversights, or stepping down while you still can do so with some semblance of dignity. There is only one recovery: bringing in leadership that realizes its rightful place of serving a public with humility, transparency, and responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Hey, it's Truth. Nora, after the last Sandag meeting, you wished everyone a good Friday. Well, after the meeting, I had lunch, and one of my conversations was about abortion. And literally 2 minutes later, the police shut down the streets, and there comes a Catholic procession marching with signs that read, "Pray to end abortion. Can't make life up." Now from an Alpine Sun article entitled, "Regional Chamber Talks Cross-Border Solutions." Quote, "The San Diego Regional Chamber held a Building an Innovative Workforce Through Comprehensive Immigration Reform Forum with Nora Vargas and National Migration Institute of Mexico's David Perez Tejada. The purpose of the forum, migrants in the workforce. Nora said, to change what our border region is, I'm beginning to lay the workforce component. Undocumented need to be integrated. People are going to work to the northern part of San Diego and East County. This is a regional flow of human capital that is a significant economic drive. David said, we will help people who are trying to cross illegally into the U.S., end quote. So there are many things wrong with all of that. First, our country, America, and the country, Mexico, are being combined into one border region with no rights. Not on my watch. Second, apparently a company in Mexico is openly aiding illegal immigration into our country. Third, Nora wants those illegal immigrants to unlawfully work in our country, and specifically in North County and in East County. Why there? Fourth, Nora refers to these people as mere human capital, and that reminds me of the arrogant politicians with a racial superiority complex like Nadler.
Vegetables would rot in the ground if they weren't being picked by illegal immigrants.
This is the modern-day slave trade. Nora, your past racial stereotypes about people that cross legally every day are out of touch with today's realities. Legal immigrants can obviously make it just fine, because I'm looking at you, Nora. These are not the old refugee days. This is
We'll hear from the next caller.
Hello, this is Kelly McCormick. I'm a public health educator with a focus on youth alcohol, tobacco, and other drug prevention. An important new study was just published in the medical journal The Lancet on the relationship between marijuana retail density and harms to health. The study reviewed the results of 32 other studies. Researchers found that the retail availability of marijuana was correlated with worse health in a number of categories, including increased use of healthcare services, increased calls to poison control centers, and increased marijuana use and marijuana-related hospitalizations during pregnancy. Greater use of marijuana by adults and young adults also was reported. A closer look at reasons for the increased use of healthcare services included marijuana dependence, cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, also known as cyclical vomiting or scromiting, and cannabis-induced psychosis. To public health advocates, this news is not surprising given what is known about tobacco and alcohol regulation. Greater access to physical tobacco retailers, bars, and liquor stores is positively associated with increased substance use and harm. These studies highlight that characteristics such as the number and location of marijuana retail outlets may be critical to the ultimate health impact on a community. Limiting the density of marijuana storefronts is considered an important public health measure. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning. Again, all the remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, oh, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I just had a comment on public comment. I was really interested in the comments regarding cost of living. I thought that was for those who came up and mentioned that. And petition we got, I thought that was really compelling. I know we do continue to face rising cost of living in San Diego County. And as a person who spent much of my career looking at data and working as an economist, I'm really aware that these kind of metrics and how we measure baselines really, really matters. So I just wanted to voice my support for this kind of core idea of looking at cost of living as we look at this equity study. I think it's really logical. I think it's the right thing to do for our county workers. I know last time we looked at what's called cost of labor, which doesn't really take into account cost of living and living increases. It's really more from the perspective of the employer. So I just thought that that was a really kind of compelling point. So I was wondering from our CAO whether we could explore sort of options about how we could potentially look at best practices.
Vice Chair. So I want to just be, I'm looking at County Council. I just want to make sure that because these are all components of negotiation, we want to just hold off a bit. So do you have any comments? Because I know you're looking at me.
Certainly. This is, since that was public comment, there's no action or direction the board can give other than to either put this on a future agenda or refer it because it is non-agenda
exactly. So that's exactly right. So my question for the CAO, if I could continue, if it's okay if I finish my sentence. Sure. Thank you, Chair. My question for the CAO is if we could explore I know this is something we'd have to discuss in closed session, whether this is something we could explore.
So I want to make sure that we're not violating the Brown Act. So the SEIU folks came earlier this morning. They provided a packet for myself, and so my intention was to give it to the CAO, and we'll just refer to her, but we can't do it on the dais is what I'm hearing from, right?
Yes, the only matter, it can be referred to the CAO, and certainly if there's any
So I can't refer to the CAO, which is what I'm trying to do? I'm sorry, I'm not following. I'm referring this to the CAO because that's what you're telling me to do, but you're telling me I can't, so can you clarify?
I think the referral is that the matter is being referred to the public discussion, but any direction associated with that referral as to any actions to consider or take would be then beyond the scope of the referral, but certainly the board can agendize this at a future time. With
I'm not even asking to agendize it. I'm just asking if it's possible. I'm referring it to the CAO, asking if this is something we could look at a future date.
Then that would be the scope of the referral, is to look at this matter and just refer to it.
Okay, so since I haven't finished my sentence, can I finish my sentence? Okay. Is it possible, I'm asking the CAO, if we could refer this to the CAO and explore this as something we could potentially talk about at a future date?
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, we have the packet, and so with that being referred to us and based on the speakers, we will be able to, as mentioned, then for purposes of closed session, bring the item forward as it relates to once it's agendized for closed session. But the referral comes to us. So having heard the speakers and the facets that was brought up to us, that certainly with the packet will be referred to us for evaluation.
Wonderful. Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right, the next item for the agenda is the approval of the minute statements of proceedings for the regular meeting of March 12, 2024 and the Fire Protection District meeting of March 12, 2024. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Please vote. All right, we're now proceeding.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with the formation of the consent calendars, items 1 through 6, 8 to 17, and the fire protection item number 1. Members of the public will be able to comment on the consent calendar after the supervisors pull the items they would like for discussion. Before I hand the floor to my colleagues, item number 7 was withdrawn from the agenda by request of the CAO office, and I will be withdrawing item number 5 to discussion, and we're going to be hearing that concurrently with item number 26. All right, Supervisor Montgomery Stepp.
Yes, no need to pull anything, just wanted to make some quick comments on item number 10. I want to thank Sarah and the rest of the CAO staff. I just want to acknowledge the cooperation from the CAO and Finance and Government team for recognizing all of the partners involved in the Southeast Disaster Relief Coalition. There really isn't a day that goes by that I'm not thinking about our flood survivors, and I know that our entire county staff is in the same boat. So this will just be an additional way to help as we move forward through a long recovery process. And with that, I will move the consent agenda. Thank you so much.
Supervisor Desmond.
I have nothing to pull, but since pulling item 5, I know we have a handful of speakers who want to address item 5. Can we allow them to speak during the consent calendar comments?
Yep.
And then we'll hold those items together, I guess, at the end for the vote. But if you could allow, I think it'd be, because they're already here.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I got you. All right, Supervisor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have nothing to pull. However, I'd like to point out on item 14, under the state of emergency proclaimed by the governor following the winter storms, it did not cover all the vital records at no cost. However, it covered many of the records from the county assessor, recorder, clerk's office. And this would cover all the documents, helping people get back on their feet, and it allows the victims help recover quickly. And I want to thank our county assessor, recorder, clerk, Jordan Marks, and Chairwoman Vargas for co-authoring this important item. I think it's really important that we get people back to work, back in their homes as quickly as possible. So thank you, and with that, I'll make a motion in favor.
So you're seconding the motion? Thank you.
I'll second.
Got it. Vice Chair Lawson-Remer.
Yeah, I have a couple remarks and a couple items, and actually, I'd like to pull item 5. Well, I also have a lot of folks down to speak, and I was hoping we could take it together with items 26, since they're very similar, but we'd like to pull item 5.
We already did.
Oh, I thought he did not pull it. I thought he...
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, didn't understand.
So
My bad, apologies.
No worries.
Okay.
So just to step back, what I did is I pulled number 7, and then I pulled number 5, and number 5 is going to be heard with the other number 26. However, there were folks that had a time certain they were going to be speaking at the beginning during consent, so I'm going to provide them with the opportunity to speak during the consent discussion, and then the folks on number 26 can speak, and you all took the item together, 5 and 26.
Okay, fantastic. We're all on the same page then. Great. So I just had a couple comments on item number 3. I think this is great. I know the team's done a lot of work on winning this grant. We've been working really hard on protecting our workers here in San Diego County, and I just think it's great that this grant is going to, if we can get it, is going to provide the funding for a dedicated attorney, and I think it just really expands our their capacity to do good work. So appreciate that item that the team's been working really hard on. And also just wanted to thank District 1, thank Chairwoman Vargas for this work on item 4. I think this makes a lot of sense. Obviously, when we fought hard to get Prop 1 passed, that's only the first step in the right direction, but we really need to have a strategy of how we then implement that here at the county. So strongly support this. I think it's really smart, and just thank you for bringing it forward.
All right, so we got a lot going on today. So before I turn it over to my colleague, I just want to share thank you to our county assessor for his partnership on this item. I think this is extremely important. I think both Supervisor Montgomery Stepp and myself have been working around the clock with our county team about what else could we do to support our flood victims in the county of San Diego. And so your partnership in this process has been invaluable. So I appreciate you for all the work that you're doing on that. I also want to just highlight item number 6, and I'm going to have you come up here in a second, so ask you to join us. And then I also want to talk about our item number 6 and number 8. Number 6 in terms of our aging population and the work that our team has done. Truly, truly appreciated. I think if you see the numbers, there are more people living longer, and it's something that I think the county, as we're moving forward, really needs to think about how we continue to be true partners in this process. The plan is one that I think is going to be vital as our communities are aging and living longer, thank God. So excited about what that looks like as how we're moving forward and making sure that people are healthy. The other item is item number 8, our first 5 San Diego annual report. I think we can have a whole session on it, and thank you, Alicia, and your team for everything that you do in partnership with Kim and everyone else to make sure that our children are safe. The work that all of you are doing is just so important, especially for families in our underinvested communities who really need that support. So thank you for that great work. And last but not least, I think as a board, we all supported Proposition 1, the bond funding for community well-being. And today we're going to be hearing updates on our behavioral health packet as well around SB 43. And I just want to say that I'm really proud of the work that this county is doing by looking at our folks, our communities from a comprehensive perspective. And so I'm excited about the work that we're going to be doing together. And I think that now that the proposition has passed, what we need to do, as they say, is roll up our sleeves and get it done. And so that is exactly what you all have been doing. And I'm excited about the prospect of us being able to prioritize how we move forward and then really thinking about how we are going to be partners in this process, because we want to make sure that everyone is housed and is also being taken care of and looked at from a very holistic perspective. So excited about that. So with that, I'm going to ask my good friend Jordan, County Assessor, to come up here and just say a couple of words, and then we'll go ahead and take a vote.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Board of Supervisors. Really have to say the best ideas for relief come from the community. And it happened to be that the Neighborhood Market Association had a community outreach event, and Supervisor Anderson and I happened to be there, and a property owner from El Cajon was damaged from the winter storms. And one of the things that they asked for relief was to have their fees waived on the property records because FEMA required it for relief. What many people don't realize is, as the assessor recorder county clerk, our office is on the front lines of relief when the storms happen. But before I get into that, I just want to take a moment and remind folks today is property tax day, or tomorrow, I apologize. So please make sure you pay your property taxes on time. Now, I'm not the treasurer tax collector. I'm not going to try to be. We have a wonderful treasurer tax collector, but I am an advocate for taxpayers and homeowners. So every chance that I have to possibly save homeowners money, I'm going to do that. But the board also did pass an opportunity to defer property taxes for those that were impacted and survivors of the floods. And those applications for the deferral are due tomorrow by 5 p.m. So I do want to take that moment to thank the board again for your leadership, Supervisor Vargas and Montgomery Stepp, And to remind the community, tomorrow is the deadline for the deferral. Please get those applications in. My office is here to help, sdarcc.gov, an easy online one-page application, e-signature. We know a lot of folks are not in their homes. We put it at your fingertips. Please, let us help serve you. But today I am grateful for Supervisor Anderson's leadership for immediately delivering this relief for waiving fees, along with Chair Vargas, and responding to that taxpayer that we met with. My office does hold these important records, property records, and the things that FEMA needs to establish that that was your property and the area that you qualify for the relief. This is not going to be a quick process, but we can rapidly begin the healing process by getting these records in the hands of the survivors. I want to thank the community, especially the Neighborhood Market Association, for having brought this forward, and also our important team and staff that helped work to make this happen, especially my Recorder County Clerk team that are here with us. If you want to stand for a moment, they worked really hard to get the information and gather what we need to show how this does impact the staff. But also, when I talk about we're on the front lines of disaster relief, when Chair Vargas and I were there in Spring Valley with the hundreds of families, these folks were there on that weekend printing birth, death, and marriage certificates that the governor's office said, hey, we can get that done. Today, they're going to be helping those victims when they come in our office. Easy, 15 minutes or less, free parking at all my offices across the county. And that's one thing that I want to kind of emphasize today. A lot of people think that the damage from the storms only hit in Spring Valley, in Lemon Grove, in the city of San Diego, but we saw it hit from Otay to Oceanside, Borrego to the border. And so a lot of people think that it only qualifies if you're in those places that have been concentrated on the news. But my office is here to provide relief all across the county. So if you've been impacted by the floods, relief is here for you. Every citizen of San Diego County is qualified. We are here to serve you. So again, I want to thank supervisors for your partnership and giving our office another resource to help our community rebuild together. So thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, and thank you, Supervisor Anderson, for being my partner in this process. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to public comment.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. Just to reiterate the items on the consent calendar, item 7 has been withdrawn, and the consent calendar includes items 1 through 4, 6, 8 through 17, and the Fire Protection District, item 1. The vote on item 5 will be concurrent with item 26, but again, we'll hear speakers on item 5 during the consent calendar discussion. Any members of the public that requested to speak on the consent calendar by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We have 20 requests to speak, 9 in person, and 11 requesting to speak by phone. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. I'd like to invite forward the following individuals: Stephanie De La Torre, John Seymour, Paul the Bold, Rachel Hayes, Richard Ciaba, Julie Porter, Mark, and Consuelo. If I've called your name, please come forward. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. I'll ask you to please identify which item on the consent calendar you are speaking on. You're welcome to come forward in any order.
Hi, good morning, Chairwoman Vargas and Supervisors. My name is Stephanie De La Torre, and I am speaking on item number 5 in support of the pilot program for MHSA. I am the Regional Director for the Hope Through Housing Foundation here in San Diego, which is a sister organization to National Community Renaissance, an affordable housing developer. We provide programs and services on 8 permanent supportive housing sites here in San Diego, 4 of which have no place like home vouchers. 4 of the housing communities that are listed on this item, Villa Serena Valley Senior Village, Greenbrier, which is in Oceanside, and Vista Santa Fe, which are 2 leasing up this year, are under us. So the programs we provide on site really are about making sure that the residents who reside there reside successfully. We provide programs that empower them to succeed and to move forward, coming out of homelessness into homes. We provide programs in health and wellness, financial stability, and food security. We have very strong partnerships because this does not happen alone in terms of making sure that residents stabilize with Alpha TPSS, County Behavioral Health, Father Joe's Village, Interfaith, Community Services, and the VA. So together, really, we make sure that all our residents stabilize. Absolutely, we can use more funding and more support. We have a lot of residents that have a high acuity of mental health. So in order for us to, right now, Hope Through Housing has about a 93% retention rate, meaning we retain a good majority of our residents. Either if they leave, it's because they've passed away or for other reasons. So support would be greatly appreciated for us to continue to succeed.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Stephanie. John Seymour from National Community Renaissance, and we're here today supporting Supervisor Jim Desmond's recommendations and Vice Chair Tara Lawson-Reamer's recommendations as well. We believe this is a really good point in time to start discussion. As Stephanie mentioned, 3 of the 4, those are under construction for National Corps in North County. We also have other permanent supportive housing integrated and 100 PS throughout other portions of the county. I think it would be a good idea when we take next steps is to bring people with boots on the ground that are actually involved with property management, behavioral health, BHS, Alpha, Father Joe Villages, or other case management services providers to understand what the needs of the residents are, not only the permanent supportive housing residents, but the non-permanent supportive housing residents. We're also employing full-time property management, facial recognition, technology, single point of entry into our developments, crime prevention through environmental design, creating close relationships with the sheriffs and the PD, and also ongoing resident socialization and, above all, avoidance of isolation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi. Good morning, Paula Bold. We have just, I'm speaking on the head of purchasing to award contracts. We have just seen at Sandag, Nora, what happens when an official bypasses the board to ratify contracts. Moreover, the board letter says some of these subcontractors may not have the insurance or bonding capabilities to participate as prime contractors. That is, no money to reimburse us if the contract fails. So they may get starting experience, but this whole scheme is just too risky. The Ukrainians' contract. There is no statement that the Ukrainians actually need this. It is logical that they might, but they're resourceful, and many might have found jobs and resources by now. We might just be wasting our money. 10, the District 4 storm response. The board should not spend all this money on just District 4 when it represents the entire county. I would rather see this ARPA money go to the First 5 Commission, which has a legitimate COVID claim, and other county funds go to the flood victims. The sheriff's report, military equipment report, is a much better, more detailed report than last year. The aging area services plan, we need a plan that sounds more like a wish list. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Rachel Hazen. I'm speaking on agenda item 5 about permanent supportive housing. I was recently housed after 10 years of being on the streets. June 20th, 2023, in the Jamboree, which is now Vallejo Village, and they have excuse me, started a community meeting once a month so we can talk about safety for all residents because we have families and children. The management team is great. We started NA meetings there. We're going to start AA meetings there. We have other organizations that come in for people that want recovery, and they speak about it for outpatient, inpatient. And if you have a problem, you can talk to any one of the team members that work there. I also work with Living Water Nazarene Church, and we donate 5 food boxes every week to 5 different residents to help out. And it's slowly becoming together as a community, but it takes time for everybody to get on the same page. And they're implementing more and more programs like they did an Easter egg hunt, a huge Christmas party, a Thanksgiving thing. They're going to start cooking lessons there, just things to help our community stay a community and look out for each other, which is very important, and have the wraparound services that each individual needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Julie Porter. I'm here with Lived Experience Advisors. I, too, am a recipient of a permanent supportive housing grant. I've been housed since 2017. I do have wraparound services through Father Joe's Villages. I stay in contact with my case manager at least once a week. I'm here to give my support in anything for permanent supportive housing. It is crucial for those of us that can't quite earn enough to make a rent payment here in San Diego County. And anything you can do for permanent supportive housing, I approve. Thank you very much for hearing me today.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mark, 1 and 2, Posse Comitatus Act. Your arming of police with military weapons against the people violates the Constitution. 4 and 5, author of the movie Dune, Frank Herbert, quote, all governments suffer a recurrent problem. Power attracts pathological personalities, end quote. Herbert was interested in the work of Thomas Szasz and the anti-psychiatry movement. Szasz was a distinguished lifetime fellow of the American Psychiatric Association and a staunch opponent of the involuntary psychiatric treatment. Anti-psychiatry movement is based on the view that psychiatric treatment is often more damaging than helpful to patients. Observation of the abuses of psychiatry in the Soviet Union in the so-called Psychiatric hospitals also led to questioning the validity of the practice of psychiatry in the West. Psychiatrists around the world have been involved in the suppression of individual rights by states in which the definition of mental disease has been expanded to include political disobedience. The collaboration between psychiatry and government leads to what Szasz calls the therapeutic state, a system in which disapproved actions, thoughts, and emotions are repressed, cured through pseudo-medical interventions. Thus, illegal drug use is considered an illness that needs to be cured. To sum up his description of the political influence of medicine in modern societies imbued by faith in science, Szasz declared, since theocracy is the rule of God or its priests, and democracy the rule of the people or of the majority, pharmacracy is therefore for the rule of medicine or of doctors, end quote. In the same vein as the separation of church and state, Szasz believes that a solid wall must exist between psychiatry and the state. There already exist laws to institutionalize an individual who is a danger to themselves or others. Agenda item 4 is profitable totalitarian imprisonment by the state on the citizens they have intentionally impoverished.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. On a call for Richard Ciaba and Consuelo. I've called your name. Please come forward.
Consuelo.
Their reckless policies are biting them in their own behinds. As I've mentioned to Nora at the last SANDAG meeting, government formulas never work, at least not for the people. People are just tax cattle, indentured servants. Property taxes, another racket. You can own your home outright, but if you fail paying the government, they can take it away from you. No different from how the mafia works. How is that okay? How have we accepted all of this? I can tell you, it's the design. People are just expected to do as told by this corrupt local government. Fun, witnessing the hypocrisy in real time. The difference in treatment of those coming in to beg government as opposed to those coming in to call out and expose government. No equality for us. The advantage this local government has is that the majority of the people in the county aren't paying attention. If they were, they'd be front and center. This board talks good game, but their actions have proven destructive to our county. We have allowed it. Reminder, government creates the chaos to appear as the heroes. Wake up, brothers and sisters, this system is purposely collapsing, but please be aware that the new system coming into play is worse. It's hard to imagine, but everything happening in our county and on the planet is intended to keep us under their control. We've become beyond complacent and have accepted this dystopian nightmare as life. Watching people suffer is not normal, yet we've just accepted it. Government is to blame for all suffering on the planet. Pay attention, get involved, it's gonna get worse.
So before we continue, I'm just going to inform Consuelo that she was off topic the whole time, so please confine your comments to the agenda items, and this is your first warning. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from those that requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. And I'll remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll start with our first caller.
Barbara Gordon. I would like to speak to item 4. I am here today deeply concerned about the increase in substance abuse disorder. As I have watched for years, marijuana advocates claim that permitting marijuana would benefit society. It's natural, harmless, and even cures many ailments. Marijuana now is more accessible and acceptable, in part because it has created the false perception the drug is safe. Advocates downplay the health risks, outing it as a largely harmless and non-addictive drug. But marijuana today is 7 to 30 times more potent. Recent National Institute of Drug Abuse, or NIDA, reports 44% of people between the ages of 19 and 30 reported marijuana use in 2022. 1 in 10 of that same age group admitted to daily use, a number that has doubled in the past decade. With long-term effects, increasing the risk of psychosis, schizophrenia, social anxiety, and suicidal ideation. As more people use marijuana, 54% of users are considered high-frequency users by the industry, accounting for the vast majority of weed consumption. Scientific studies estimate that 1 in 3 people who use marijuana become addicted. Marijuana changes mental health as well as cognitive, emotional, and social development. Scientific knowledge is essential for sound policy-making decisions. I urge this council to fund treatment programs instead of prioritizing the marijuana industry over the interest of public health protection. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Thank you, Board of Supervisors, for the opportunity to call in. My name is Erin Hogaboom, and I'm calling in today with San Diego for Every Child and the Children First Collective. I wanted to address specifically items 4 and 8, Proposition 1 funding, and First 5 San Diego's fiscal analysis, as they are very much related. I hope the opportunity will be presented at future meetings to discuss these at greater length. Just as Child Abuse Prevention Month was focused on earlier in this meeting, to ensure the long-term well-being of children, we absolutely must be prevention-focused when it comes to mental and behavioral health services. This entails ensuring that pediatric-specific mental and behavioral health funding is protected, even as flexibility is afforded to the county in terms of Proposition 1 dollars. It also means working towards far greater collaboration and demographically proportional investment from our behavioral health services with First 5 San Diego and the Child and Family Wellbeing Department. Despite roughly 20% of San Diego's population being under the age of 17, we have no accountability measures in the form of a dashboard or inclusion in the county plan for the specific and unique needs of our youngest San Diegans. Healthy development services made possible through diminishing First 5 state funding is nothing short of a lifeline for the families of roughly 27,000 children across our county. When we talk about meeting the mental and behavioral health needs of our young children, kids, and youth, we're talking about helping families stay together day in and day out, uplifting communities, and investing in San Diego's future. Thanks for holding these principles close as you consider First 5 San Diego's fiscal analysis and Proposition 1 implementation.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Chair Vargas and Honorable Supervisors. My name is Courtney Baltiski with the YMCA of San Diego County and Children First Collective. The First 5 San Diego Annual Report and Proposition 1 discussion aren't linked on the agenda or programmatic discussion. This presents an incredible opportunity for consideration. First 5 San Diego programs contribute to and absolutely enhance sustainability in the areas of child and family well-being, the environment, and our economy. We want to draw attention to the profound support offered to parents and caregivers for behavioral screenings, developmental delay screenings, and treatment for up to 27,681 0 to 5-year-olds. When considering mental health equity, well-being, and the implementation of Proposition 1 in San Diego, we have to choose to care for a true continuum from children and youth to adults. We can not only have a discussion about our adult population, we must work on collaboration and transparent data sharing across the Child and Family Wellbeing Department, including First 5, and the Behavioral Health Services Department. Please make this transparent and easy for community to understand. Proportionately investing in children and youth is a prevention, a significant need, and can improve with greater intention. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Chairwoman Vargas and Supervisors. This is Ted Miyahara, President of San Diego Community Housing Corporation. I'm speaking on item number 5. We are the co-developer of 3 developments included in the report. Let me start off by thanking Supervisor Desmond for bringing forward this pilot program. The region is making huge steps in addressing issues around homelessness, and a big part of that success is the housing that we're building. The development community is dealing with some really tough populations. Individuals seeking serious mental illness, often referred to as SMI, require some extra care and attention. These individuals are often dealing with mental health issues, substance abuse disorders, issues that often require a connection to services, counseling, crisis intervention, and medical management. The No Place Like Home funding deployed by the County of San Diego is from the state of California. These rules and regulations that are the structure of the program, specifically who we house, are mandated by the state of California. We are required to house SMI populations. It's a condition of the funding. We're required to house tenants who come out of the regional's coordinated entry system. Owners of these developments are often very limited in terms of the discretion that they have and who they're housing. The pilot program will help stabilize developments that are often experiencing challenging tenants. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say it takes time to dial these developments in. We need to find the right tenants. We want to find people that want to be housed. We need to find people that want to take the necessary steps to remain housed. Those are people that want to seek services. And we want people that actually respect and abide by the terms of the lease agreements that they're under. A development up in North County has been in the news as of late. I do think it's worth mentioning that highlights some of the challenges we're facing as a development community. However, that does not represent permanent supportive housing as a whole. There are 19 No Place Like Home developments across the county, and I haven't seen...
I'll hear from the next caller.
Peggy Walker. Regarding item 4, I strongly favor providing resources and infrastructure to treat individuals with mental and behavioral health needs with equity, and believe this should include an education, prevention, and awareness component regarding substance abuse disorder. A wise man said, "We strive for a society free of poverty, conflict, and prejudice. Why not one free of psychotropic drugs that enslave our brains?" It's a good question. The public has falsely been led to believe marijuana is safe and non-addictive by an industry whose sole motive is profit through dependency. Consumers deserve the truth on THC's harms and how it impacts mental and behavioral health. Equity should mean access to everyone to gain the skills and knowledge to avoid enslavement to addictive products, especially for youth and young adults who deliberately and unfairly are targeted through poorly regulated marketing, packaging, and advertising of pop products. As this is Child Abuse Awareness Month, I ask that you also include programs to spread greater awareness regarding the dangers of pop products to children that are left around through neglect. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Ann Riddle here. I called in to speak to item 8 regarding the receipt of the First Five's annual report from 2022-23, and I guess add my thanks for their 25 years of work. As a retired social worker, I'm well aware of how important it is that we have them to focus on those first 5 years of children's lives. It's no surprise that this week is also Young Child's Week, celebrated April 6th through the 12th. Those are significant years in the development of a child. One might say they're irreversible years in the life of an individual. And I appreciated the comment made in the board letter that this county wants to achieve an early childhood and health for all of our citizens, and that the children of San Diego County have the opportunity to grow up healthy, safe, and protected by this county, by the things that we do and say and show and enable and maybe even promote. With that in mind, I'd like to remind us that it's also Healthy Homes Month. And their theme is creating homes that are healthy, safe, and resilient. It's kind of interesting that the money for First Five comes from the state's Proposition 10, which are the taxes we collect on cigarettes and tobacco products, and that we use this now to protect young children. We combine all these thoughts together. I think it's time for this county to really support the idea that our young children should grow up in smoke-free, vape-free marijuana and tobacco homes, and implement this policy that's been implemented across the state in other counties. Can you imagine?
We'll hear from the next caller.
It's truth. Item 1 is military weapons, including AR-15s, grenades, and machine guns for police and sheriffs. There was very little training for any of these weapons, and over $41,000 was spent just on ammunition. Item 3 is $8.5 million state debt dollars to pretend to care about workers when it's really to, quote, protect state revenue, end quote. Same concept as increasing minimum wage. Say bye to the workers' jobs. Item 4, the state's now taking more control away from local governments via behavioral health. The only way to solve this crisis is to lock up new scum. No to data, no to stakeholders, and hands off my health. Item 5, just another program to be ended, but I do support your changes, Jim. Item 6, the Area Agency on Aging is yet another regional governance entity nobody consented to, along with the $19.4 million debt dollars. Item 8, taxes on cigarettes to go to government goons who know nothing about real health. Item 9, no to $1.6 million in housing for Ukrainians, especially when you guys just ended crummy motel vouchers for local Americans displaced from local government negligence. And no to the Communist Socialist-founded International Rescue Committee being in charge of it. Out of 10, I approve of this money going to the Southeast Disaster Response Team, the Harvey Foundation, and the Alliances. No to others listed. Item 11 is $100 to $925 checks to county workers so they can pretend to be well or sane for working here. Item 15, SANDAG is the embodiment of conflict of interest, illegality, corruption, collusion, and screw-ups. Item 16, scary fact, Jimmy Salas on the Military Veterans Advisory Council was a volunteer human guinea pig for the AstraZeneca clot shot. No to Aaron Bizak to the Behavioral Health Advisory Board. Seems like double dipping. And no to Stephen Spector to the HIV Planning Group. He was part of a study that lied, saying that the COVID clot shots had no safety concerns from a study paid for and or connected to Pfizer, Merck, Eli Lilly, and Moderna. But yes to artist Juliet Rodriguez to the Arts and Culture Commission. On topic the whole time.
Thank you. Next speaker. Next speaker is Kathleen Lippitt.
Good morning, Board. Yes, good morning. My name is Kathleen Lippitt, and as a public health practitioner, I'd like to address consent item 5. Dr. Kevin Sabet and share some important comments and concerns that were shared by Dr. Kevin Sabet at the UN's Commission on Narcotic Drugs this month, warning of the unprecedented threat from multinational corporations to traffic and profit from drug addiction. While an admirable goal, the strategies and policies adopted to address mental health problems ignore the noble vision and goal we once embraced of a society where we prevent drug use before it starts and celebrate recovery. The importance of freeing society from poverty, conflict, and prejudice are recognized and we should be preventing drug trafficking that enslaves human brains and causes personal degradation and social disruption. The county's policy on the marijuana policy fuels and undermines all of their goals, all of the county goals for addressing mental health problems. Canada and U.S. that have gone down this path of drug liberalization are experiencing the worst addiction crisis in our lifetimes, not just from fentanyl, the drug that actually is more of a culmination than the beginning, because it is marijuana that is the first drug of choice. Harm reduction should be a means to an end, but not a standalone policy. And my concern is that your mental health treatment centers will fail to prohibit the use of the very drug, marijuana, that has started these individuals on their drug substance abuse journeys. Allowing personal drug use is a pretext to prolonging human suffering.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's pretty crazy that we are going to sit here and virtue signal. Everything on the consent calendar is not anything that the people consent to. When you're talking about kids and wanting to...
I'm going to mute you. Can you please state your name for the record? Thank you.
Oh, hello?
Yes, please state your name for the record.
Oh, yes. My person uses the name Audra.
Thank you.
So you're sitting here and you're virtue signaling like you're trying to take care of children, but the sad thing is that we have an invasion going on our border, and there's over 500,000 children, unaccompanied minors, that have gone missing. What happened to the 2,000 children or plus that were in the convention center a couple of years ago? Now you guys are hiding them, and you want to sit here and act like you really care about children when, in fact, you do anything but that. You're supposed to be mandated reporters, and we're sitting here facilitating the trafficking of young children that are under the age of 5, some of them older than that, but they disappear, and they're also, raped and pillaged along the way. But nobody wants to talk about that. You just want to help facilitate it, give money to all of these NGOs that are actually engaged in this human trafficking and act like it's a humanitarian crisis. Well, it is, because these people are being exploited, number one, but these children don't deserve to go through that, and have you guys help facilitate it on a massive scale and ignore it and sit here and pretend like it's not going on, and then sit up there and have your proclamations and all of these things acting like you're doing something to help children. Well, as mandated reporters, you should be actually doing something to save these children, not facilitating their demise. So don't act like you care about kids when you can't even acknowledge what's happening right in front of your face. And you guys want to sit up there and act like, you know, you're doing good things for the community. How about you start acknowledging the facts that are going on right in front of us? And when people talk to you about it, let's be real, instead of trying to brush it under the rug like nothing is going on. It's really disturbing, and it's pure evil what is happening and what you guys are allowing to happen, and what you're also just pushing to happen because you act like we're xenophobic. It's really sad. These children deserve better, and you guys don't deserve to be up there if you're not going to be doing right by the community or by these children.
Yeah. Thank you. And I hear from the next caller.
Hi, John Brady with Lived Experience Advisors. I'm just calling in on item 5, the investment in additional mental health and supportive services for our housing. We are so not doing the permanent supportive housing gig right. I just can't even tell you the number of people that we work with that are being evicted currently from permanent supportive housing because their mental health needs were not addressed appropriately. And I really want to identify 2 in particular that are being evicted from Windsor Court simply for calling the police department in crisis too often. And we're not providing an alternative. It's one thing to move people from permanent supportive housing to other housing. It's a completely different thing to put them back out on the streets and create even more trauma. We must do better. We cannot allow people to be evicted back to our streets. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on the items in the consent calendar.
Thank you. With that, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Thank you. All right. We are now going to be, for purposes of the discussion of the meeting, we're going to be hearing item number 19 first, so 19 and 20 together. So the discussion, item 19, is updated on readiness for changes to involuntary behavioral health treatment in San Diego County, and discussion item number 20 is update on the regional capacity and need for board and care and subacute services to support Medi-Cal eligible adults with behavioral health conditions. I'm going to hand it over to our county team for a presentation. I apologize for my voice. I've had laryngitis go back and forth for the last 2 weeks, so I'm going to try my best.
Good morning, Chairwoman Vargas and members of the board. Over the last 5 years, with the leadership of the board, the county has transformed its behavioral health continuum of care. We are in the midst of major efforts to both respond to new mandates and take proactive steps to help people access care, assess the care that they need. These significant efforts range from the CARE Act program, payment reform, expansion of mobile crisis response, Medi-Cal transformation, and many others. Per the board's direction, today we will report significant updates on 2 major initiatives. The first is regional board and care capacity. In September, the board requested an assessment of the capacity of board and care and subacute beds that serve Medi-Cal eligible adults with behavioral health conditions in the region. The board also directed staff to assess strategies to expand these critical resources. The second initiative we will present is on the implementation of involuntary behavioral health treatment, or Senate Bill 43. In December, the board voted to be one of the first counties in California to implement SB 43 starting January 1st, 2025, and directed staff to establish a collaborative process to do so. These were the subjects of separate board letters, but given their strong connection, we will present them together, along with a brief overview of the behavioral health continuum of care. With me to present today from the Behavioral Health Services are Director Dr. Luke Bergman, Assistant Director Nadia Prevera, and Chief Population Health Officer Dr. Nicole Esposito. I'd like to turn things now over to Dr. Bergman.
Thank you, Dr. McDonald. This is a generational moment for behavioral health in California. Behavioral health policy and practice are undergoing deep scrutiny and fundamental reconsideration via major state initiatives. In this presentation, we want to speak to the most significant of these, as Dr. McDonald highlights, but we want to anchor this discussion to a vision of behavioral health and of our continuum in San Diego that remains the North Star for all of our work. For us, this moment is not about shifting course, but about how to leverage what's happening now at the state level to accelerate our progress locally. I want to begin by providing clarity about the most fundamental statutory role that we play, which is that we're a managed care plan with a very specifically defined membership. In the image on the slide, the most inner circle in orange represents our core health plan membership, about 100,000 people in a given year. These are people who are enrolled or eligible for Medi-Cal and who have substance use disorder or who are deemed seriously mentally ill, as opposed to mentally ill with mild or moderate acuity. A key characteristic of this group is that those within it are in states of relative crisis or needing care that is particularly intensive. To support the behavioral health care of this population, we maintain a coordinated system of care through a network of community providers. We also provide direct services at the county psych hospital, Edgemoor Skilled Nursing Facility, and through the county-operated clinics and case management services across the region. While our most pressing obligation and most funding is to provide care for this designated population, we recognize that movement in and out of our core membership is fluid. So we're always considering how we can push services to more people earlier in their experience with behavioral health, particularly those enrolled in or eligible for Medi-Cal, represented here in the blue circle. We're challenged in drawing revenue for this work, but we know that keeping people out of crisis and thus out of our payment responsibility makes them better off and allows us to dedicate more resources to those needing more intensive care. Local managed care plans have the responsibility for mild to moderate behavioral health care for the nearly 1 million San Diegans on Medi-Cal, and we're forging productive partnerships with them to invest in keeping people out of crisis, especially in light of recent Medi-Cal transformation. Behavioral Health Services has also invested in capacity to measure and understand the behavioral health of the entirety of San Diego County. We're the only behavioral health services department in the state with a chief population health officer or a devoted epidemiology unit. Anyone in the county could at some point become a core member of our health plan, and we thus have a direct health plan-driven interest in the maintenance of good health among everyone. In serving these populations, particularly our core population, we take a transformative approach to our behavioral health continuum that shifts the overall emphasis from one overinvested in crisis to one driven by prevention and continuous care. Over the past few years, we've been working to flip this pyramid so that our system is built on a broad and firm foundation of upstream, preventive, and harm reductive work. Rooted in the social determinants of health, we've shifted our crisis continuum so that it prioritizes meeting patients where they are and facilitates a focus on long-term recovery so that episodes of crisis are the exception rather than the norm. For the mental health continuum, this has meant pushing additional services into schools and early intervention programs, enhancing primary prevention programs, and focusing on lowest threshold and long-term housing capacity. This ensures that our outpatient clinical treatment programs align to what we know works to improve outcomes, and that we have sufficient inpatient capacity throughout the county so that we can do best by people engaged in our innovative system of crisis stabilization units and mobile crisis response teams. The drug Medi-Cal organized delivery system, which we instituted in 2018 in San Diego, established a way forward for our substance use disorder, or SUD, continuum with standardized levels of care. With the leadership of this board, the county has invested in harm reduction and transitional housing services and has built out broadly accessible treatment for addiction. We continue to expand withdrawal management, also known as detox, for people with non-opioid involved substance use disorder as the primary crisis service within our SUD continuum. While our work both in mental health and substance use has been transformative, the two domains remain stubbornly separate. We continue to look for opportunities to better integrate mental health and substance use care and to bring behavioral health care further into mainstream physical health care. And as we look to the major developments coming from the state, we can see promising opportunities to more fully integrate care on the horizon. Key to realizing our transformative vision for local behavioral health care is ensuring that our services are regionally distributed so that they're situated near people's support networks. Over the next few slides, we'll highlight just some of the programs and investments that have been established throughout the county. This map shows our crisis and diversionary services, including our mobile crisis response teams, residential withdrawal management programs, and crisis stabilization units. Over the last several years, we've built more CSUs across the region to increase capacity for short-term crisis intervention and ease some of the strain on the San Diego County Psych Hospital, which was previously one of the only facilities that could provide this type of service. And since January of 2020, monthly admissions through the Psych Hospital Emergency Psych Unit triage have decreased by 38%. While admissions to other county CSUs have increased by 429% as more CSUs have become available to the community. This slide features inpatient and residential settings, which have been the traditional anchors of the behavioral health continuum. Construction is nearing completion of a new county-developed 16-bed psychiatric health facility in Oceanside, and design and approvals are moving forward for a new 12-bed inpatient psych service within the Edgemore Hospital footprint. Meanwhile, over the last several years, and in total, we've grown subacute care beds under county contract by 35%. Much of our upstream preventive work is focused on regional and local approaches with distributed substance use disorder prevention groups and neighborhood-specific outreach, engagement, education, and connection to care. And then we have a significant preventive programs that are county-wide. Within our school-based prevention services, for example, screening to care has now been implemented in 39 schools with approximately 13,000 screenings completed since the program started, and has connected 1,500 students and 400 caregivers to services. What we're most focused on building out in the future, and what today will be the topic of deeper conversation in the second part of this presentation, and the focus of proposed board actions, is long-term care. This slide represents some of our investments in long-term care and housing, including community-based care such as board and care, and recovery residence facilities and capacity across our county. The board recently allocated $8 million in new funding to enhance utilization of recovery residences over the next 2 years, resulting in capacity for approximately 390 more people with substance use disorder annually. But this is only the most modest of beginnings relative to what we know we need. A recent and effective driver of these investments has been our Optimal Care Pathways model, or OCP, which we presented to the board a few times already. The OCP model is a data-informed algorithm that recommends best utilization of services to achieve best outcomes, and most importantly, points us toward capacity shortfalls and areas of most urgent need in our continuum. To get into details, I want to hand the presentation now over to Nadia.
Thank you, Dr. Bergman. Here you can see a summary of OCP capacity recommendations, with the lighter bars indicating current capacity and the darker bars noting the model's recommended capacity. The OCP recommends that we continue building out community crisis diversion capacity, especially for those with substance use disorder, and expand longer-term care for those with less restrictive needs in community-based settings, such as board and care facilities. We also need to expand subacute care for those with the greatest complexity of need. These are facilities that provide 24/7 services in a locked setting for people who need extended time to stabilize. People might be stepping down from acute psychiatric care or needing a higher level of care. As directed, today's update includes our assessment of the region's capacity of board and care and subacute beds that serve Medi-Cal eligible adults with behavioral health conditions, capacity estimates needed to adequately support these individuals, and our strategies to continue building this capacity. When we look at the data, we see two distinct levels of subacute care with the greatest opportunities to both improve outcomes and cost efficiency. The first are skilled nursing facility neurobehavioral unit beds, which we call SNF NBUs. For SNF NBUs, optimal utilization involves shifting bed days from justice settings, such as jail, and acute inpatient settings, like the San Diego County Psychiatric Hospital, to SNF NBU or look-alike beds. People whose care would shift into SNF capacity would include those who are incompetent to stand trial, forensic patients, and those awaiting state hospital placement. Essentially, we need more than a 10-fold increase in SNF NBU utilization to best treat people already in our system, but in the wrong part of it. The second are mental health rehabilitation centers, abbreviated as MHRCs. Currently, utilization at MHRCs is almost double what we would consider optimal. Half of this current bed day utilization could be shifted to boarding cares if they were available. But because it is so hard to get access to boarding care beds, people may stay in subacute care for far too long, ranging from over 300 to nearly 800 days. Under the OCP model, this length of stay could come down to as low as 30 to 90 days as we make the boarding care beds available. This would then allow clients to transition into less restrictive levels of care when they are ready. So we know that we need to solve the bottleneck caused by too few boarding care beds. Per the board's direction, we've looked at the data on boarding care beds across our region. According to the state's Community Care Licensing Division data, as of January 2024, a total of approximately 1,200 boarding care providers offer nearly 31,000 beds in San Diego County. Of the roughly 31,000 beds, only about 1,700, or less than 6%, are available to individuals with supplemental security income, or SSI. SSI is approximately $1,200 per month. For context, boarding care slots paid through private insurance or private payment can be more than 8 times the SSI amount, ranging up to $10,000 a month. Of the nearly 1,700 beds for individuals with SSI, only 8 licensed boarding care providers support a total of 255 beds for individuals with serious mental illness. This means that only 8 in 1,000, or less than 1% of all boarding care beds in our county, serve our behavioral health clients. And the supply of these beds continues to dwindle, largely due to continual closures of boarding cares. Since 2019, we have seen a loss of over 3,200 boarding care beds. As recommended by the OCP model, there is an urgent need to grow utilization of boarding cares by over 140,000 bed days per year, which equates to a need of approximately 400 new beds. As depicted on the slide, of the 8 boarding care facilities currently contracted with BHS, 6 are in East Region, with 1 facility in Central Region and 1 in North Inland Region. This makes 185 of the total 255 contracted boarding care beds located in East Region, with 0 beds in South, North Central, and North Coastal regions. We have plans to begin addressing these specific shortfalls. On March 1st, we issued amendments to add 55 new boarding care beds at existing facilities in East Region using behavioral health bridge housing grant funds. We've also issued an RFI for a new 115-unit boarding care campus to be built on county-owned property in Hillcrest in the central region of the county. And we are in discussions with the state about shifting the regulatory framework that governs the care at our San Diego County Psychiatric Hospital so that we can build out subacute care for people with complex conditions. But just looking at the numbers, there's so much more to do. To frame what lies ahead and the policy context that will shape opportunities and challenges, I'll now hand it over back to Dr. Bergman.
Thanks, Nadia. We know that the work forward will require that we optimize integration of care wherever possible. This will enable efficiencies across the 3 domains that are most important for all of our efforts in the future. And those are infrastructure, workforce, and support for ongoing operations. A pressing question for us is how the many state-generated initiatives that we mentioned earlier are accelerating or inhibiting our prospects across these 3 domains. Are they helping us with infrastructure, workforce, and operations, or are they posing challenges? Are they complementary, or are they contradictory? We'll focus on these questions over the next few slides, with accelerators to our work noted with green checks and barriers with red X's. Where we see negligible or neutral impacts to our work, we've indicated that with a gray box. The first state-led initiative we'll discuss is behavioral health payment reform, which changes how the county pays for services through our health plan. It used to be that we would cover all costs within an agreed-upon budget. Now programs generate revenue through the volume of services that they provide. More services equals more revenue, which means that providers in our network can be more enterprising and entrepreneurial. They now have incentives to grow their businesses. Payment reform thus offers a strong upside with respect to operations funding, and the direct tie between revenue and staff credentials should promote workforce growth and retention. We're already seeing, however, that payment reform poses some significant infrastructure challenges, as these are no longer line item costs in annual budgets, but need to be covered with service-driven revenue. Prop 1 may be the most complex of the initiatives I'll reference here. The board's familiar with its basic components from previous actions. The bond measure could be a huge help with infrastructure and workforce, depending on how the funds are allocated across regions and areas of focus. We could use them to continue building board and care campuses and subacute facilities and long-term care and housing for people with co-occurring conditions. But the change to the Mental Health Services Act, which is now called the Behavioral Health Services Act, means that we will be asked to do much more, such as spending on non-clinical housing services and substance use care, with less money. This will be a big challenge for operations. In addition to these 2 broad state initiatives, there are 3 state efforts for specific patient populations. First being the changes coming to the processes and procedures around incompetence to stand trial. Historically, those designated as incompetent to stand trial have been sent to the state's psychiatric hospitals to have their competence restored. But the Department of State Hospitals has been pushing responsibilities to counties for both restoration and expanded diversionary efforts, along with funding opportunities for infrastructure and operations through per diem payments. These resources may be critical to our efforts to build out more subacute care in particular. We're working collaboratively with PSG and with EDGA and other parts of the enterprise to take advantage of these opportunities. Next is the CARE Act, which is a new civil court process that provides community-based behavioral health services and supports to people living with untreated schizophrenia, spectrum, or other psychotic disorders. San Diego County has had considerably higher CARE Act program volume than any other county and higher than most other counties combined. The Behavioral Health Services Care Unit has received nearly 90 petitions and has helped to establish nearly 30 care agreements. This work has been especially intensive, and we're grateful to the state for providing resources for the workforce necessary to make this happen. Still, these numbers are quite small when measured against the population health impacts of serious mental illness. And the most significant thing about CARE may be that it's happening along with SB 43. Despite many concerns about how the CARE Act might extend the influence of law enforcement and the justice system in behavioral health care, we're optimistic that the CARE Act program can actually mitigate the impacts of broadening detainment and involuntary treatment and can model less restrictive care arrangements. Before transitioning to Senate Bill 43, as we step back and look at the state initiatives in their totality, we see that though there are considerable challenges, overall, what we have before us is an enormous amount of opportunity. And we see similar tensions between challenge and opportunity with Senate Bill 43. The recent revision to the Lenterman-Petra-Short Act, known as the LPS Act, broadens the definition of grave disability and allows for those with substance use disorder only to be detained and transported involuntarily for care. The impacts that Senate Bill 43 will have on our vision for a continuum is still unclear, so we've left those boxes blank on the slide. Much of this will turn on actions that the state may take to facilitate its implementation. Now, to discuss our efforts to achieve readiness for Senate Bill 43, I'll hand it over to Dr. Esposito.
Thank you, Dr. Bergman. To be clear, readiness for SB 43 legislation is challenging. There's a lack of state funding. The regulations are not in place to support clinical work that the statute mandates. And furthermore, there's a good likelihood that more people will be pushed into involuntary care for which evidence is weak or non-existent. But as Dr. Bergman referenced, there is also powerful opportunity here. SB 43 gives us an opportunity to take a giant leap forward in the provision of integrated mental health and SUD care. The momentum of this policy change may expedite long-standing regulatory and reimbursement barriers. And as the county that will implement SB 43 before nearly all others, we will play a significant role in the necessary legislative and administrative changes. The scale of the impacts of SB 43 are massive. In current state, involuntary care is coordinated across all law enforcement jurisdictions, multiple hospital systems, countywide crisis and emergency response teams, court systems, payers, and the conservator's office. And of course, any application of involuntary care involves people directly, their families and supports, as well as advocacy groups. Just the sheer volume of stakeholders to convene and coordinate is a hurdle in itself. However, the added reality that clear state regulatory and reimbursement guidance is not yet available makes the scale of the work even more complex. To guide planning for SB 43, Chairwoman Vargas convened the Involuntary Behavioral Health Treatment Collaborative Work Group with Supervisor Montgomery Stepp in January. Over the last few months, we have convened cross-sector stakeholders who bring unique perspectives and input to the table. Mike Phillips from Jewish Family Services and I co-chaired this work group and guided 3 subcommittees to define and work towards readiness for SB 43 across critical bodies of work. The activities I will outline today are informed by this group's expertise and guidance. Throughout our planning, work group members had concerns that the existing parameters of state regulation and reimbursement will challenge our readiness timelines. Despite this, we agreed that integrating SUD care into existing mental health crisis and acute care settings would expedite readiness and be best for clinical care and operations. Before discussing our readiness plan, I want to take a moment to review the landscape of holds for involuntary patient care that are included within the LPS Act. There are a series of holds, the most well-known being the 5150 72-hour hold. These holds that progress in time duration are opportunities to have more and increasingly extended times to work with patients. Involuntary patient care holds aim to resolve immediate crises so that people can receive care in the safest settings while meeting their clinical needs and working towards engagement in voluntary care and diverting patients away from conservatorship. In 2014, the board adopted a resolution authorizing the application of Welfare Institution Codes, or WIC sections, establishing this array of holds in San Diego County. A simplified way of thinking about SB 43 readiness is to consider what treatment settings are best equipped to meet patient care needs across these hold durations and from transitions to step-down or voluntary care. Currently, there are treatment settings for patients receiving involuntary care and voluntary step-down care for mental health and co-occurring conditions only, not for patients with primary substance use disorder. Workgroup members expressed concerns that mental health treatment settings are already experiencing capacity strain and that our timeline for SB 43 readiness poses a considerable challenge. Earlier in our presentation, Dr. Bergman reviewed our efforts to expand the capacity of community-based services. We hope these efforts will mitigate some of the current and anticipated capacity strain. In addition, it will provide a pathway to improve patient care and patient experience. Along with the capacity concerns, workgroup members noted that specific operational supports, along with regulatory and reimbursement changes, are necessary to allow for the treatment of primary and standalone SUD in these settings. Although the regulatory issues cannot be resolved locally, local funding can be used to bridge the reimbursement barriers. BHS is advancing activities within 4 domains to establish the infrastructure needed to effectively prepare for the January 1st, 2025 readiness date. The 4 domains are education and training, expanded treatment services and supports for people with SUD, alternatives to emergency departments for 5150 transports, and lastly, updating procedures and adding capacity to support the county's Office of Public Conservator. Over the next few slides, we will provide an overview of readiness activities across short, mid, and long-term timeframes. Although it is important to stress that our plans and timelines will need to be flexible in anticipation of additional state guidance and through ongoing collaboration and learning with other counties. To support education and training, we have had tremendous success with getting the right stakeholders in the room to discuss just how significant this change will be both clinically and across sectors. Within our stakeholder group, we went through individual case reviews and scenarios and were able to note how complex implementing these new holds will be. We also highlighted key areas of training to support readiness. From these convenings, we will develop new LPS trainings and an approach to coordinating these trainings with the multitude of jurisdictions and sectors that require the LPS training update. Beyond LPS training, community-level discussions and presentations will take place over the next few months. Within the expanded treatment services and supports domain, our initial focus is on the implementation of a behavioral health peer response model, SD Relay, anticipated to begin summer 2024. This peer response model had previously been approved by the board as a part of our opioid settlement fund budget. With SB 43, we will expand this model to include linkages to voluntary care for patients released from behavioral health holds. In the midterm range, we will also work to enhance connections for patients in emergency departments to SUD residential and outpatient treatment. For SB 43 readiness, we must achieve locked hospital-based SUD treatment. We do not have this anywhere in our system today, and it will take time to develop. And thus, it is noted as long-term in our readiness plan. In the next domain, our areas of work focus on establishing alternatives from emergency departments for people with primary and standalone SUD. In our subcommittee, we agreed that CSUs already do a high volume of services for people with co-occurring conditions, so expanding the role of CSUs to care for people on the new holds is both operationally and clinically optimal. Currently, there are major regulatory and reimbursement challenges to doing this integrated work within CSUs. The state's Department of Healthcare Services is currently working to address these barriers. However, in the interim, BHS will anticipate using local funds to reimburse our county contracted CSUs to provide for people in situations that cannot be covered by Medi-Cal now. We hope to be able to bill Medi-Cal for this new population once we've received definitive guidance on billing. SB 43 establishes requirements for the Conservator's Office that are entirely new, with no standard points of reference to guide development. For example, there are no clinical standards around which temporary conservatorships should be made permanent, or for which referrals should be made temporary conservatorships. Developing these standards will be complex and will take time. We'll need to make sure that the established new standards aren't just ours, but that they are made in agreement with other counties. Given the fact that there are so many different tactics and different timings across the state, this is a major challenge. However, the needed coordination is underway. And now I'll hand it back to Dr. Bergman.
Thanks very much, Dr. Esposito. We recognize as the board accepts this update that you've already made substantial devotions of ARPA funding to make the local implementation of Senate Bill 43 go as well as possible. We want to express gratitude for your leadership in making this happen, and also note that while significant, these dollars will go quickly, and that we remain hopeful that the relevant branches of state government will work expediently to create mechanisms for the clinical work that Senate Bill 43 requires to become reimbursable. And with that, and in summary, we ask that the board receive the update on regional capacity of board and care and subacute beds, which includes requests to amend 5 board and care contracts and sunset time certain reporting for addressing the behavioral health worker shortage, and receive the update on Senate Bill 43 implementation. Thanks very much, and we'll take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Bergman, and we're going to turn it over to public comment, but first I just want to make a couple of comments. I want to say thank you to the Involuntary Behavioral Health Treatment Collaborative Work Group. I want to make sure that, we say thank you because everyone not only showed up for the first meeting, but they kept coming back to every one of the subcommittee meetings, and this was truly, truly a working group. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate my colleague participating in that process with us on the first meeting. All of you have done what we exactly wanted you to do, which is use your expertise and really think about how we move forward. And so I appreciate that. I also want to say thank you for really developing innovative approaches around some of the work that we're doing and thinking about how we're gonna do this. Not all of the funding sources to implement SB 43 are there, as you have mentioned, and we're thinking about, as we look at Prop 1 and other initiatives that are in place, we want to make sure that we move forward. I don't want to say, I told you so, but if you look at what happened in San Francisco, right, and the hardships that they are facing, I am once again grateful for your leadership and for the work that this board has done, and all of the practitioners have really understood that we have to put a system in place before we can actually do this and do it right. And yesterday I was speaking to the Lucky Duck Foundation, and I shared with them that, this county has not spent as much money on behavioral health services as this board has done in the last couple of years. And so we're committed to doing this work and implementing this plan and doing it right. And we are still committed to being on track for, January 1st of 2025, as we had agreed. And so, again, I'm looking forward to hearing from the public, and I'm happy to make a motion to accept the recommendations and continue to do this work together. So with that, I'll turn it over to the public comments.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 14 requests to speak on items 19 and 20, 5 in person and 9 requesting to speak by phone. Also note that we received 1 e-comment in opposition for item 20. Any members of the public that requested to speak on items 19 and 20 by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers, starting with those in favor of this item. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. I'd like to invite forward Kay Marie, Josh Bohannon, and they'll be followed by the speakers in opposition, Mark, Paul the Bold, and Consuelo. I'll ask you to please state your name for the audio record. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kay Marie. I'm here in support of number 19, involuntary treatment. I also speak at the BHAB meetings monthly, and they're kind and listening, and I thank them very much every month. My family member has recently been given a chance with LPS, but no beds are available at this time for his appropriate care. My family member has a severe mental illness, a brain disorder. It's not his fault. He's kind, intelligent, a college graduate, and had a career. During many crises over the past couple of years, recently, while unmedicated, psychotic, and delusional, not stabilized, he was dumped for many hospitalizations to be homeless, a missing person, and make medical decisions. This is setting him up for failure and for abandonment. Why is imminent and severe deterioration a standard? He has lack of insight, which is a barrier to volunteering for help. It's not denial, it's not him being stubborn. Anosognosia, it's in the DSM on page 101 and 304. Lack of insight needs to be considered for those with severe mental illness because they won't volunteer for help. They don't understand. It's not them being stupid. There is a lot being disguised as rights that is not right. The right to be unmedicated, psychotic, delusional, and homeless is not a right. I suppose we're pretty awful if we know someone has a severe mental illness and we watch what they do. They have special needs, then why are we watching them clinically deteriorate, be homeless, and holding them accountable? While medicated, they have a life. Families need to be involved to help. We are suffering along with our loved ones. Families only have the right to claim a dead body at the morgue. Involuntary is necessary to save a life, recovery, and a continuum of care for successful outcomes.
Thank you.
Thank
Next
you.
speaker, please.
Hi, good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Josh Bohannon. I'm with Father Joe's Villages. Father Joe's is San Diego's largest and oldest homeless services provider. We also operate an FQHC that does behavioral health treatment, psychiatry, substance use disorder treatment, Medicaid-assisted treatment. I'm here to thank BHS. We were part of the SB 43 work group, and it was a fantastic moment for us as providers, members of the community, to really discuss and talk about what we need as organizations to make SB 43 successful or able to be implemented within the county. So first, I just want to thank DHS for all the great work you do. But I'm here today to remind us about the nexus between homelessness and behavioral health. So the biggest driver of homelessness is economic. We're seeing seniors and families falling into homelessness faster than we've ever seen in our nation's history. And the longer you're on the street, the more trauma that you're exposed to. And that trauma can evolve into, substance use disorder, mental health issues. So as we think about building out our continuum, our infrastructure, we have to keep in mind that this issue is growing as homelessness continues to increase. Those numbers aren't slowing down. We're seeing more and more people falling into homelessness each month. So I know that we're already behind of where we want to be, but we're going to start falling further behind as we see homelessness increase and more trauma being exposed while on the streets. So thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Paula Bold, I do not approve of involuntary treatment. It is essentially traumatizing the person who is already sick, showing him or her that force is right. Better results are to be had by a mutual arrangement, such as community counseling. In the posted plan on the website, A, training not developed when it should have already been, probably won't be ready in 2 months when behavioral health, BHS, wants to go live with the training. Glad BHS got the FAQ website up though. B, expanded substance use training, disorder SUD treatment. You want to provide overdose prevention education, naloxone support, and linkage to care for overdose survivors. But why not try to identify people likely to overdose and hopefully prevent it? Then enhance connections for patients to SUD, substance use disorder, residential and outpatient treatment. Why are we waiting? Update procedures and to support the conservator's office. You want to leverage and modify existing data collection systems to capture the required data, along with developing and enhancing new data reporting capability and systems. Given the Sandag fiasco, you need good audit procedures to make sure that what is reported is accurate and may not have them. I think we've squandered our opportunities for a timely start.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Mark, Peter Bregan, a distinguished Harvard psychiatrist and former consultant at the National Institute of Mental Health, in the documentary on BitChute and YouTube, I think, entitled The Minds of Men, he discovered that they were operating on children as young as age 3, 4, and 5 for hyperactivity, difficult behavior, without even pretending to have psychiatric diagnosis or serious disorders. These children were institutionalized and had electrodes inserted into their brains, stimulating parts and burning holes in their heads by heating the electrodes up. In 1967, following the urban race riots across the U.S., 3 neurosurgeons wrote a letter to the AMA suggesting that riot leaders may have brain dysfunction related to local lesions. These black riot leaders' brains could be corrected surgically, they said. At 2 hours, 20 minutes, 30 seconds, the man states, the psychiatric community's desire to use new technology against people, against poor people, black people, and people who are incarcerated. So I do not want you institutionalizing homeless with LPS conservatorships. You supervisors will not address the root cause of homelessness, which is inflation caused by the Federal Reserve, but you will fund the psychiatric and pharmaceutical industry experimenting on stressed homeless people against their will, and profiting, I might add. People who will never be missed. Suspiciously, I couldn't find exact stats on homeless ethnicities. It appears to be about equal between whites, blacks, and Latinos. Government causing poverty and experimenting on the homeless is evil and very scary. No on agenda item 19. Monica, did you see Zeitgeist Addendum? No response. Okay, well, I wish you would. I know you have the title at 6 minutes and 40 seconds. If you can just remember 6 minutes and watch it for about 15 minutes. That relates to every agenda item this board ever does.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Consuelo, involuntary is a slippery slope, only because if it's not the loved ones calling for it, it's the government that will once again have the control to deem someone unsafe or unstable. Great. Again, I know it may be very difficult to believe, but behavioral health is also very lucrative, just like homelessness. It too will never be remedied by this local government. Their interests are not in solving these problems. They are only concerned with the funding they receive due to these problems. If they weren't being funded for these issues, the problems would be solved, and fast. You see, it's not beneficial for them to fix anything, hence why they continue keeping the people distracted, drugged, and dependent on them. A lucid and well-informed examination of the world's problems will keep bringing you back to this one fundamental issue, that the Earth's inhabitants are being psychologically manipulated at a mass scale into organizing themselves in ways that serve the powerful governments instead of one another. These supposed county leaders are not in the business of fixing anything here. Just look at their track record. Everything they've been involved in has failed and will continue to. So please do get involved, San Diego. Pay attention to how they have and still are incrementally destroying our county and our lives.
We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. Again, when it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'll remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll start with our first caller.
Hi, Honorable Chair and members of the County Board of Supervisors. I am Amber Tervroot with Scripps Health. On behalf of Scripps, we greatly appreciate the opportunity to address the board in support of this item. I want to thank the supervisors for your leadership in the decision you made back in December to thoughtfully and responsibly implement SB 43, with the law going into effect on January 1st, 2025. We got to work right away, as we promised. The county convened working groups for stakeholders, and we continue to work through those groups and also individually within our organization to prepare. Through this process, we have learned quite a bit about our gaps. Today, as you know, our hospitals are facing many challenges, including patient length of stay, the lack of post-acute services, and the need for more behavioral health beds in our region. But ensuring the community's access to our emergency departments is one of the most challenging issues we face. We are having to make some difficult decisions to make sure that we can operationalize SB 43 and have the capacity in our hospitals to admit these new patients and place them on involuntary holds. We are grateful for the collective work happening under the county's leadership to make sure the financial resources and reimbursement structures are there, to make sure standardized training protocols for law enforcement, first responders, and healthcare professionals is available, to align the implementation of SB 43 with the implementation of other legislative mandates like care courts and AB 2275 and AB 40. And we're grateful for the myriad of efforts underway to address our region's need to build adequate infrastructure, places for people to go to receive the community-based care members of our community desperately need who are suffering from behavioral health and substance abuse challenges. So in closing, we won't be in an ideal situation by January 1st, but we are doing the best we can with a dedicated focus to implement this legislation responsibly. And because of your leadership, we are much better prepared. So thank you again for giving stakeholders like Scripps the opportunity to participate in this collaborative work so that we can try our best to avoid the challenges plaguing areas like San Francisco. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning. My name is Mike Phillips. I am the Senior Director of Patient Advocacy and Housing Services for Jewish Family Services San Diego. And I wanted to be there in person today, but I'm working in our Palm Springs office. So thank you for allowing people to call in by phone. As the head of patient rights for San Diego County, I have understandable concerns about the civil rights ramifications of how SB 43 gets implemented in this county. And I say with absolute sincerity that I could not be more impressed with the efforts that have been made by Behavioral Health Services over the past 2 months and all of the stakeholders that have been brought together. As Dr. Esposito mentioned, these are individuals who are experts in the field, brought together from a system where they know what we can and can't do, but are inspired to do more because now we're being challenged to do that. A huge shout out to my colleague, Dr. Esposito, and her leadership on this matter. I won't go over all the different subcommittees because she already has, but I will say in my 20 years of doing this work, I have never seen the community come together as they have in the last few months. At these conversations, there was vigorous debate, there was real talk, rolling up the sleeves, what can we do, what can't we do, how are we going to make this work? And I am very impressed that we not only have decided what can we do now to implement, but we've identified areas where there might be roadblocks, legislative, financial, or otherwise, and focused on advocacy efforts and other areas to remove those roadblocks. And I say with great optimism that I truly believe that we will be ready by January 1st of 2025. I'm very thankful to be a part of this community and a part of this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
My name is Sarita Polinaire, First Vice Chair of the Behavioral Health Advisory Board, and I'm here to speak on behalf of our board to address SB 43 implementation. We would like to express our appreciation for the Involuntary Behavioral Health Treatment Collaboration, which was formed to help facilitate discussion and planning for implementation of SB 43. It was brought together by many stakeholders to the table, which has provided invaluable data and insight. We recognize that regardless of whether we support the idea of compulsory care, we all desire SB 43 to deliver an excellent service performed by well-trained professionals that leads to successful outcomes, that adequately funded, and that works to remove barriers to sustain behavioral health and wellness. It is said that people do not resist change, they resist transition, such as transitions from life with severe substance use disorder to life of sobriety. We would like you to understand the gravity of implementing SB 43 in ways that respects the complexity of ongoing behavioral health challenges and ensures safeguards to prevent harms to already vulnerable and marginalized populations. We believe strongly every system or program we design for a population or group is the most comprehensive and successful when it's informed by people who have lived experience for that population or group. Ideally, the informing starts at the very beginning and is constant through the design, is represented on program staff involved in auditing, and there when the program concludes. We encourage you to reach out to lived experience experts and advisors at every opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
My person's name means storm. You guys should be the ones that are locked up involuntarily. It's very sad to see what's happening because the world is upside down and inside out. And so if you're not, going along to get along, your behavior needs to change so that you can, conform to the way that society is being shaped by people like you guys. And, you know, you don't even have enough behavioral health workers. This is a good way to pretend like nobody's on the streets, but this opens the door to, you know, involuntary treatment for anybody and everybody. And it's sad to think that we have an invasion on our border happening, and these people who are murderers, rapists, and human traffickers, drug traffickers, you name it, are being released on the streets, and then you want to come after the people in the community and acting like you're doing a service to them, when Bergman is sitting there saying it's not a forced treatment when it's involuntary and court-ordered. So just again, like everything else, it's upside down and inside out and inverted, so that you guys can act like you're trying to do something to help the community and these people when you're just using them and using them to give them more medications when you're already giving them paraphernalia to do the drugs that they need to do, and then you're going to condemn them for it. So, you know, you guys need to be the ones that are changing your behaviors and going into forced treatment, not the people, because you're the ones that are destroying the community. And we're sitting here and, you know, having children destroy their bodies and, you know, acting like if their parents don't go along to get along with that, then they can have their children take it. It's very disturbing what's happening, and the way that you guys virtue signal like you're actually doing something to help the community when in fact you're doing everything to destroy it. And that's exactly why you should be in those forced treatments, to change your behaviors. Instead, you want to do it to the people. And you guys will pay a price for doing what you're doing. And it's going to be a very heavy-weighted one. So I would look in the mirror and try and change your ways, because what you guys are doing is nothing good. And again, Satan is very, very, very proud of you guys, and he has a very, very warm place.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Truth, item 19. The reality is that Newsom and the Democrat and Republican minions want SB 43 because it's a tactic to sweep people who are homeless off the streets. It makes it look like the politicians actually solved the problem when really they exacerbated it with their lockdown measures that destroyed lives. Now, quote, testimony can be submitted into conservatorship proceedings without requiring in-person cross-examination. New populations eligible for involuntary hold, treatment, and conservatorship, end quote. No cross-examination, no defense, just sweep them, lock them, and steal from them. New population missing, put on drugs with their property stolen. Kidnapping with no due process like our law requires. And at Sandag, what ridiculousness did Bergman spew about it?
Compulsory. This would not be voluntary, but the compulsory. That's not true. Well, if you get them a house and you say you have to be in the house, that's not voluntary. There's a court order for the care plan, and I realize that this is, you know, an enigma wrapped, you know, in a, I don't know, a ham sandwich or something.
A psychotic enigma wrapped in used toilet paper. Bergman, BS. So the equity statement lies when it says this will be a rights-based approach with dignity and autonomy of individuals. You guys didn't even believe in rights or autonomy the last 4 years when you demanded everyone get the clot shot. What hypocrisy. Item 20 is another multi-million-dollar contract with facilities like Carroll's Community Care that has reviews that say, quote, they are exploiting the elderly, low-income, and mentally ill population. Management non-existent, staff inattentive, residents' needs never met. This place should be shut down due to unsanitary conditions. Do not let your loved one move here, end quote. Maybe you guys should look into Carroll. Instead of using Medi-Cal to get people trapped into the behavioral health web, I'd rather see the whole system dismantled and our taxes refunded so we can all afford to get away from expensive and negligent government care. Shame on you, prophets who call.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on these two items.
All right, thank you. Before I turn it to my colleagues, I just want to again say thank you again to everybody who participated. And I want to make sure I highlight the Hospital Association of San Diego and Imperial Counties, Sharp UCSC Health, and the San Diego Police Department, as well as some of the groups that help us with the implementation plan. So thank you for that. Vice Chair Lawson-Weaver.
Yeah, thank you so much. And as always, thank you for the very data-rich and empirically driven presentation. It's incredibly helpful. I have a couple questions, but actually I just was hoping we could return to the slides because I just wanted to better understand a couple things on the slide deck. Maybe while we get that slide deck up, I can skip ahead to my questions, and then we can kind of go back to the slide. So you mentioned, question number one was, there was the kind of ended up in this recommendation that we needed 400 more board and care beds. That was sort of like the conclusion of a lot of the analysis. And I wanted to better understand, were those 400 board and care beds in general, or 400 board and care beds that were capable of providing behavioral health services, or there was 400 board and care beds that were capable of providing behavioral services and took SMI? Right, there's like concentric circles there.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Vice Chair. It's exactly the right question. We are talking about 400 beds that would be capable of and willing to house and care for people who are part of the behavioral health system health plan, so people with SMI, correct?
Okay, that was super helpful. Thank you. That just wasn't clear. So could we skip ahead? Sorry, there was like some specific slides I had to just keep going. Keep going. Okay, yes. So I just was hoping you could talk a little bit more about incentive structures around the beds that are being provided, right? So, because the core of, I think, the analysis that you've outlined is that we have too few of the SNF neurobehavioral units and too many of the mental health rehabilitation centers. They're both in the subacute category. We need to get some of the mental health ones into the skilled nursing, and then we need more boarding care. Okay. So, but why? Is it like, what's going on? Is the reimbursement rates too low for the SNFs, or is it cheaper to run the MHRCs? Just like explain what's driving this misallocation of resources.
Yeah, thanks for the question again. So this is largely driven by a cohort of patients that isn't enormous relative to the total population of people within our health plan even. It's a pretty small cohort of highly complex patients. So people who need longer term stays in care like they would get in a subacute setting, but who continue to present with kind of reasonable levels of disease acuity, and often who have co-occurring cognitive issues or concerns along with their mental health concerns. We right now have a continuum that isn't sort of sufficiently addressing those very particular needs. And so we have disproportionate impacts across the entirety of the continuum because of that sort of relatively small gap in terms of total numbers of beds. Why is it that the system is built that way? You pointed or suggested that, maybe it has to do with reimbursement. There are ongoing challenges that I think are, that are talked about frequently.
But I guess the core of it, like this is really just trying to understand, wrap my head around. So you've identified a category, subacute, saying we've got too much of one kind of subacute, not enough of another. I'm just trying to better understand, like, why? Why are there too few of one kind of bed? Is it that the reimbursement rates aren't sufficient in one category and they are sufficient in the other? Is it an infrastructure shortfall? I just wanted to better understand how we got to this miscalibration. Like what usually, right, we're capitalist, free market, there should be like providers jumping in.
So part of the issue is that the cohort is small, and so so it hasn't seemed, because the analytics until, frankly, like this department had really dived into the work, there wasn't sufficient attention on the impacts across the continuum of this small cohort. Now, and that has led to an insufficient investment in this high complex capacity. There are long-standing issues with sufficiency of reimbursement through public insurance for skilled nursing facilities for patients whom we would anticipate having longer stay. And this is something that's talked about very often in the context of elder care, but it also has impacts here. So certainly part of the work that we sort of see before us is developing spaces that are regulated to manage higher complexity, and also developing operational funding mechanisms to support that work.
Okay, that's helpful. So just kind of building on that, I know that there was this $44.3 million in behavioral health bridge funding. So how does that play into this, us trying to patch this, basically? Because I know it's called a patch.
Patch is a word that's used, it's true. I'll turn it over to Nadia maybe to give some details. A lot of that funding will go into board and care, right? And we described the insufficiency of board and care as maybe the most significant bottleneck in the continuum, right? Because if we had board and care, then the row on the bottom there, the MHRC row, that sort of level of our continuum would be relieved right now of a lot of pressure.
Does it go into ongoing like operation and maintenance, or is it for infrastructure, upfront infrastructure?
It's primarily for ongoing operational costs, and that's why we use
So basically like the delta between what it costs to run the facility day to day and what you're getting, like the $1,200 you get from SSI.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so okay, that's helpful. How long is that going to last us?
I believe it goes through, I want to say the end of 2027. It might be longer than that. But just to clarify, it is for infrastructure also. So we're sort of splitting a bit across, depending on what the needs of facilities might be, to support infrastructure needs as well as the operational costs. And then in addition, we have that community care expansion funding that your board approved, I think it was like a year and a half or so ago. So that's going to add additional money to preserve existing facilities. So the BHBH, the Behavioral Health Bridge Funding, is for net new beds, and then the CCE preservation funding is to preserve existing facilities. So if they're experiencing a loss or showing a net loss, that we would sort of fill in that gap to make sure that they don't shut down.
Oh, that's super helpful. And what is that delta? Like, okay, so I think it's $1,200, right, from SSI. Is that the right number? And then what does it actually cost to operate a boarding care that provides the behavioral health services that we're talking about, right? Not just bread and butter boarding care, but in the behavioral health bucket. What's our delta?
Well, so as we noted in the presentation, some board and cares will charge as much as $10,000 a month for a slot. So and it's, the delta is driven by cost, but it's also driven by competition in the market, which, doesn't necessarily hinge to cost. But that really does determine how challenging it is for us to find places for people with serious mental illness.
That makes total sense. I mean, I understand the shortage. I'm just wondering from the cost perspective, not the supply side.
Yeah. So we need to establish, kind of a patch level, and what we've been working on is sort of tiered levels. That enables people with behavioral health conditions, serious mental illnesses, to compete in the market for board and care slots, and that can mean pushing the monthly payment to what we see as sort of the prevailing average, which is close to $10,000.
Or it could mean making a requirement to take SSI patients if you get the investment money. So the upfront investment facility money is sort of contingent on taking those patients.
Yes, correct. So both of the grant funds, they have to take SSI and folks with serious mental illness to be eligible for that funding. So it's hinged to that.
Sorry for these detailed questions, but it's very important, and you guys are doing really important work, and just want to make sure I fully understand it. Can you just also talk a little bit about how behavioral health workforce, from your point of view, where the bottlenecks are in that regarding specifically board and care and the SNF subacute neuro behavioral unit?
Yeah. So in board and care, the challenge is that is a service that's mostly been provided by families out of single family homes that they own and that they devote to this service. So most of the work has been done by sort of folks whom we would describe as quasi-professional or kind of paraprofessional. We don't need people with very high behavioral health credentials doing board and care work, but we do need a lot of them. And so part of what we are thinking about, like in the context of the RFI for a 115-unit board and care campus, a lot of what we're thinking about is how do we, sort of establish an administrative infrastructure that can support a much larger workforce than you would find just situated within a particular family.
What are the kinds of credentials that you have or training for working in board and care?
Well, right now, the community care licensing doesn't require, I think, anything like a master's degree. I don't believe that there is sort of any kind of, training that is specific to DSS, which houses community care licensing. one of the things that we will have to pay attention to, I mean, this is, and this is like sort of work that I would say is in process, is in developing, this workforce that, would be largely peer-driven. We do have now peer certification that's leverageable. There are opportunities for reimbursement for peers who have the certification that didn't, used to exist in the state of California. So that will be, I think, one of the sort of richest reservoirs of folks will be peers who have the certification.
Okay, I have obviously lots more to ask, but this is good enough, and I think you guys are doing amazing, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. Well, great presentation. Thank you very much. A whole lot to unpack here. And I appreciate some of Supervisor Lawson-Rimmer's questions because I have similar ones myself. But one of my questions is we're talking a lot about care and getting people into care and getting them, on their way or on their lifestyle, to be better, maybe not hooked on drugs or treatment of different kinds. And we seem to have with the board and care and the community care places for that treatment. I think one of the challenges we have, especially with the homeless people, is where do they go after that? Where do they go? So I'm just wondering, as far as the chain or the pipeline of getting somebody, in a better mental state, then the housing portion of that, is that board and care, or is board and care only for 30 to 60, 90 days? To me, there seems to be unfortunately, people might end up being homeless again if they don't get some type of housing.
Yeah, it's a great question, Supervisor. Board and care is sometimes misunderstood as necessarily transitional or shorter-term housing. In fact, for people with serious mental illness in particular, it can be very long-term. It can be the place where people live for the entirety of their lives.
Okay, so board and care can be permanent?
It can be. It can be.
And I'm trying to figure out from your charts, it's just on the board and care particularly, you say we're going to need approximately 400 beds for board and care?
Correct.
So, but I also noted where you had that statement that there's current barriers to care are the decreasing number of licensed care facilities and even fewer that serve with the SSI income and have serious mental illness, and these barriers often leave people with the behavioral health conditions homeless, institutionalized, or on extended stays at the acute care settings.
Yeah.
So they're not getting, I guess, moved through the pipeline because we don't have enough. And what you say we have incentives, though, for people to provide the behavioral health care. Is it, I'm trying to get all my acronyms here, behavioral health, BHS services. We're trying to incentivize entities to take more of those types of patients, because on this, this funnel chart, you got funnels, you got triangles, you got diagrams,
we like shapes.
you got every geometric thing in here.
We're good with shapes.
So it seems like the licensed board and care beds you've got on this chart, it says 255, there's 8 providers that provide 255 beds. So do we need 400 more?
Correct.
So we need 4, okay, and then on these board and cares, they sound like they're more community-based facilities.
Yeah.
Have we thought at all of building our own facilities? I know you're talking, I think there's 140 beds in Hillcrest. Is that board and care?
We have presented to this board some preliminary thinking about and have already conducted an RFI in pursuit of the possibility of building a board and care campus on county-owned property in Hillcrest. Correct.
Okay, so that's, because I'm thinking sooner or later, particularly with our items 5 and 26, that a lot of communities may or may not like whatever, may have some issues with that, which is where we're trying to fix and make sure that we're better neighbors. So so that was okay. The one question
I wouldn't note quickly, Supervisor, that board and care involves 24/7 presence of caregivers.
Okay, so it does involve 24/7 on site. And so I've never seen a board and care. Are they usually a dozen people in a house? 8? 20?
It's usually under 10, and I think the fact that you've never seen one, you may have in fact seen them. They're not terribly conspicuous in the community landscape, and that's sort of one of the things that I think people appreciate about them. Yeah.
And then, okay, so what's our current inventory of subacute care, and where do we? I guess. For where people go after they get out of the ED or the ER room in the hospital.
That's right.
Where do they go? What's our capacity there for that type of service?
So what we highlight out of the optimal care pathways work is that we need to increase capacity by about 64%. But in particular, with a focus on these highest complexity patients. Those are the folks whom it is proving incredibly difficult to find step down from acute care settings for. And what ends up happening often is that they wind up staying in acute hospital settings, sometimes for hundreds and hundreds of days. And so and then they create log jams there, right? Which, makes it challenging for the providers of acute psychiatric care to actually admit patients who need, in fact, a shorter term duration stay, which those services were designed for. So they really gum things up. Another thing that we brought to this board to discuss as kind of some preliminary thinking around would be regulatory changes at our county psych hospital, which would enable us to devote that service or big chunks of that service to addressing the needs of this population in particular.
Well, and I noticed, and when Supervisor Lawson-Remer brought up the chart with the beds, the little beds, little blue beds, what are they? We
got blue, we got orange.
Yeah, you got all sorts of gray beds, whatever. But could you bring that up again? Because I think I heard you said that the cohort is very small.
Did I use the word cohort? I
Yes,
probably
you did.
That sounds like me.
Yes,
Yeah.
you cohorted all over. But anyway, but there's 54,546 bed days. How is that a small cohort of people or individuals? To me, that seems like a lot of bed days.
Yeah, that is a lot of bed days. And part of what you see reflected there is that that stays for this population in this setting will be relatively long. These are, again, highest complexity people. So we anticipate relatively long stays in this setting, which again is, it's very challenging in the ways that these environments are regulated currently, and in ways, to the Vice Chair's questions, in ways that they're reimbursed right now. It's most SNFs that have locked units are not inclined to accept Medi-Cal patients for very long durations because the reimbursements.
They have insurance. There's a group of people that just don't have that, I guess, aren't reimbursed. So this is a locked facility somewhere, and we just don't have enough of these facilities to get people out, because this is one of the biggest things the hospitals that we hear about why they're fearing in SB 43 is we got to release these people somewhere. We can't keep them forever, and so we have a shortage today, major shortage on that. Okay, so I already talked about, so what would be, I guess, the pipeline of someone, SB 43 kicks in, they're brought to the ER, I'm still using ER. I don't like ED.
Eric
you can
will
use ER. But the hospitals, okay, so they get somebody in, they hold them for whatever the time period, and then they discharge them. So hopefully they go to a skilled nursing facility or something like that. I guess I'm just trying to follow the pipeline of a person once they're admitted under SB 43. And I guess there's many different avenues to go, but for somebody who's severely mentally ill.
So, right, for somebody who is severely mentally ill, the places that they would go, even if they are under conservatorship, will depend on what it is determined clinically they most need. So the trajectories could vary a lot. It's not like there's just one path for a person that hinges to a particular duration of hold. So it depends on what their presenting conditions are. So it could be somebody who has some degree of mental illness, supervisor, but also has a substance use disorder. Maybe the substance use disorder clinically turns out to be the thing that it's most pressing gets, addressed. What we hope, and what you heard Dr. Esposito describe, is that SB 43 will be an opportunity to develop innovative regulations and innovative or new reimbursement opportunities so that that scenario that I just described, somebody with mental illness and somebody with substance use disorder, can get treatment for both at the same time in the same place and have that work not be done despite regulations or in ways contradicting regulations, but supported by regulations, and not, despite the absence of reimbursements, but supported by reimbursements. That's like a super important opportunity with SB 43 because, as Dr. Esposito noted, it's not like we need lots of new buildings right now. We may need virtually no new buildings. What we need is current capacity in our continuum to be regulated differently so that we can actually treat the folks who come and need care. And many of those have substance use disorder and mental illness right now, and that's why I sort of described in some of those those shapy slides, like we've got this system that right now is either substance use disorder or mental illness. SB 43, because it's got a lot of political gravity, it's an important opportunity for us to help the state, help all of us, by developing new regulations that will allow for that
integrated care. But in the meantime, we have these log jams of not having the beds, or even so you say we don't need them, the facilities, but we sounds like we do. We need them to be spaces that can accommodate. In sort of the most extreme example, we need places, and Dr. Esposito noted this specifically, we need places that can provide locked substance use disorder treatment. That is, to be clear, not a thing in the current state of things. A place that we sort of see as likely a sensible option for doing that work would be in locked acute psychiatric settings. Okay. Which we don't have right now, or enough of.
Well, we're, I think, optimistic that there will be space in that kind of setting with, work that we have ongoing and with some of what we think will improve flow through the continuum if we build out board and care. If we build out board and care and we build out subacute, those log jams or bottlenecks that we've been describing are going to get relieved. And we think that will drive up capacity in acute settings that will enable us to do things like treat substance use disorder, primary or standalone in that kind of setting, but we need the regulatory support to do it.
But
and we need reimbursements.
We just can't do it in the current facilities that we have. What if we were to build new facilities?
New facilities would also require entirely new regulatory frameworks and would also require the creation of entirely new reimbursement categories. So the sort of the P&P, the kind of, process stuff would still need to happen right now, and we'd have to spend years building a thing. Now we think we don't need to emphasize so much building the new thing for this very particular need, locked substance use disorder treatment, so much as we need new regs and new reimbursements to facilitate it.
So, all right. I'm sorry, I know you've been going along here, but I don't know. I'm a engineer by training. So, I like to build stuff and see what you need. Let's go build it and hopefully, accomplish what you can get done. Then you handle all the mental health stuff and all the reimbursement stuff. But it sounds like, I don't know, to me that there's an option. I noticed in your behavioral health, this chart that had little X's and gray boxes. Yeah. The gray boxes threw me.
Sorry
but
about
that. I get an X and I get a green check mark. But to me, it looks like infrastructure is needed in the behavioral health payment reform column there as well. So
correct. And again, we do see a lot of infrastructure opportunity with Prop 1. That's going to be huge, and so we will be thinking about that in the context of the needs that we've described as most urgent here.
Okay, I have to apologize. I'll finish up here, but we're probably going to have a meeting in a couple of days, and I asked my staff to stick it up or put that on the schedule, and so you might have to repeat yourself many times, but I appreciate it.
I enjoy repeating myself.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Montgomery-Stepp.
Thank you very much for the presentation and the work that the behavioral health services team is doing. I think to our resident engineer. Buildings can be built, but we have to build the systems for this next era that we are embarking on with SB 43, with Prop 1, with the changes in Medi-Cal, and I think those things don't have to be mutually exclusive. So also, just let me say that we know this work is vital. All these things have been said before, but I will say it again. I do believe that if we can optimize implementation strategies that you are presenting before us and continuing to build out, we really can get on top of all of the issues we're dealing with now and greatly expand mental health and substance use treatment services for some of our most vulnerable folks in the county. With just one additional question, so many questions have been asked. Some of them I was going to ask too, so thank you to my colleagues. The licensed boarding care facilities sort of implies that there can be services that are rendered that are not always licensed. So independent living facilities, where do those fit into the optimization plan? Are they spoken about here? Are they considered boarding care facilities? My understanding was that if there were a number of people that you were serving that was 6 or below, you wouldn't necessarily have to be licensed by the state of California. How does that fit into what we're talking about here? If what I said was correct, how do they fit into this?
It's a totally appropriate question. The reason that we emphasize community care licensed board and cares is that they come with the kind of most robust service expectation. Relative to independent living. Right. And that's what we feel like we want and what we really need. I mean, and I think speaking to concerns that the engineer to your left has raised, the services there are, they are really oriented around activities of daily living, right? So think about, people who need help ensuring that food is put in front of them so that they eat 3 good meals a day, that kind of thing. That's sort of, that's kind of a way of thinking about the level of service that a board and care would provide.
Okay. I know that we do have issues with independent living facilities that don't require that type of regulation. Yes. But people are still living there, but still need those 3 meals a day, may not need as much supervision or care or services, but we need enforcement there as well. And I mean, enforcement is it's a strong word.
But I could just say really quickly, one of the things that we support out of BHS is an independent living association, yes. Which is a voluntary registry. Yes. So we're not carrying a stick, kind of in the enforcement and incentive continuum, but we think of it as an important carrot in the current context. Certainly that you have to sort of meet certain quality expectations to be a member of that. And we've got a sort of analogous recovery residents association as well. Mm-hmm. We aim to incentivize membership in those associations as we roll out the funding behind some of these opportunities.
Okay, I just wanted to know where they fit into the continuum. Yeah. Involuntary treatment, I've always had concerns around that. I think I heard one of the speakers talk about the relationship with civil rights to what we are having to do with SB 43. But we also know, as we've heard from other public commenters, that there is a reality where some folks in our community who are greatly suffering are not in a position to make the decision about their mental health and the care that they need. But I want to bring into this conversation, as we talk about systems, there is inherently in most of our systems disparate treatment when we look at the statistics and the demographics. So I want to know if BHS will be tracking demographic data for individuals placed under 5150 holds in conservatorship. We just want to ensure that conservatorship is not disproportionately enforced upon communities of color, in particular the African American community. That has been the case historically, and so I want to know how we're addressing that through our work group and then through long-term implementation.
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. One of the, we think important components of Senate Bill 43 is that it does require counties to build more robust data capacity around that whole continuum of holds between 5150s and conservatorships. The data requirements historically around involuntary holds have been very, very light. And so most counties across the state have not had very robust data to which they could, refer in speaking to the issues that you're raising. We're making that a central focus in our development of SB 43 capacity.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I just want to say what a great job you're doing. I really appreciate Dr. Berger and all your work and the team, all the work of your team. It was a great presentation, and I also appreciate answering so many of my questions in advance of this meeting. One of the things that popped up that, as you were speaking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, as we develop these beds and these opportunities, as people that currently are showing up at hospitals, they'll actually have a place to go after they've been in the hospital, but they may have a place to go without going to the hospital. And hopefully it's a lot. And if we do that, has anybody focused on the potential savings or estimated? I'm thinking there's got to be somebody somewhere who said, I think that we're going to have a reduction in costs, and then...
Yes, those people are sitting here.
Well, I'm here with you because I believe it will. Then that brings me to my next question. As we're moving forward trying to fund so much of this, have hospitals and other organizations who will reap some of the savings, do we have buy-in from them when thinking in terms of their buy-in? Can we offset and get more of this online quicker with their help?
It's a really good question. First of all, I would just say with respect to cost that we see a very substantial reduction in per person or per patient cost. We per episode of care, right? We see when we look longitudinally, when we look like across a person's lifetime, we see costs that that don't reduce dramatically, because part of what we want to do is keep people in care longer, because they will do better and they will live more, more happy and more well lives. So there's a little bit of balancing if you look over the long haul, but if you look per episode, the costs are massively less if we can keep people in places like board and care and not have them go into acute care settings and hospitals. I think there are some natural incentives for mainstream healthcare providers to participate in this kind of work, and we certainly see that when we look, elsewhere across the country. There are some, large hospital systems that are doing things like partnering with insurance companies, partnering with housing providers, and really focusing those resources on the patients whom they, through all kinds of fancy risk stratification analytics, whom they know could be cost liabilities for them. And so it makes sense from a simple bottom line perspective for mainstream healthcare to make investments in places that may be non-traditional, kind of relative to what healthcare has been investing money, maybe non-traditional, but have very strong bottom line drivers for them.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Thank you. With that, we'll take a 30-minute recess for lunch. Thank you.
Board is in recess until 1:15.